Coming to you from deep in the heart of the Texas, Austin, broadcasting worldwide. Thank you so much for joining us on this Friday global broadcast, the 14th day of April. You know, I was thinking back last night, and I was thinking back this morning, that I've really dropped the ball. I should have made a bigger deal, quite frankly, over the fact that North Korea is threatening to nuke the task force that the president calls an armada. That's what it is. Bunch of ships, bunch of warships together going into the South China Sea, and they're threatening to preemptively attack that task force. They're threatening to attack with 100,000 pieces of artillery the South, with the capital just 25, 30 miles away from the border of North Korea. And you've got them preparing tomorrow to celebrate the birthday of the first communist dictator in North Korea, his grandfather, Kim Jong-il's father, Kim Jong-un's grandfather, to test a powerful nuclear weapon tomorrow on a fault line. Isn't that interesting? They always seem to build reactors or test nukes on fault lines. You know about the Ring of Fire. Korea has quite a few earthquakes. It's right by Japan, right across from Japan. What, only 60, 70 miles from Japan, at the closest point. And they're going to test an underground nuclear test, which have been linked to earthquakes around the world, by the way. John Bound has a report on that coming up. It sounds fanciful unless you know about the seismic history. I mean, they even admit that all the fracking in the Midwest and stuff's causing earthquakes now. It's just crazy. And this fault line's on a volcano that would go active if they do it. It's just on so many fronts, it's like a James Bond movie. You've got a crazy, out-of-control dictator with nuclear weapons threatening everybody, with a totally enslaved population of scarecrows starving to death. It's just amazing. Then you've got Al-Qaeda and ISIS getting run out of Syria and Iraq. They're now running back to Afghanistan, where they came from, in many cases. And they're down in these deep labyrinth caves. And so these bombs were designed, but then never used, to suck all the oxygen out in these caves and kill people. They reportedly killed 37 militants, dropping the Moab, that is not one of the biggest bombs. It's one of the biggest people know about. They've got much, much bigger ones. And these are just kind of replays of the classic ones they'd roll off the backs of C-130s. But it is powerful. How many thousand pounds? Like 11,000 pounds of explosives or something? 20,000 pounds. Excuse me. The previous one was 11,000. Thank you, Matt, for reminding me in my ear. I'm teleprompter free, but they do pop in when I frequently get numbers wrong. We are teleprompter free. But there they are, dropping the bomb from 30,000 feet, and reportedly killed, from what they've done with reconnaissance, everybody inside. They were trying to send Green Berets in to get intelligence, and obviously one of them got killed. So that's what's happening. That's a campaign promise that Trump is actually carrying out. The military would have to wait hours. I've had Colonel Schaefer on, who ran the program to kill bin Laden. They'd have to wait for hours pre-2001 before they would get the go-ahead to try to kill bin Laden, and then by then he'd be evacuated, or they would say, no, you're not allowed to kill him. So that's why Trump has given the military what he calls total military authorization.
Offices. It is a special office, okay?
Yes, sir.
So we'll go over there, we'll take some pictures, okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you all very much.
How about that bomb, sir? What about that bomb?
Very, very proud of the people. Really another successful job. We're very, very proud of our military. Just like we're proud of the folks in this room, we are so proud of our military, and it was another successful event.
Did you authorize it, sir?
Everybody knows exactly what happened. So, and what I do is I authorize my military. We have the greatest military in the world, and they've done a job as usual. So we have given them total authorization, and that's what they're doing. And frankly, that's why they've been so successful lately. If you look at what's happened over the last 8 weeks and compare that really to what's happened over the last 8 years, you'll see there's a tremendous difference, So we have incredible leaders in the military, and we have incredible military, and we are very proud of them. And this was another very, very successful mission. Thank you very much.
Does it send a message to North Korea?
Thank you.
Does it send a message to North Korea?
I don't know if this sends a message. It doesn't make any difference if it does or not. North Korea is a problem. The problem will be taken care of. I will say this. I think China has really been working very hard. I have really gotten to like and respect, as you know, President Xi. He's a terrific person. Spent a lot of time together in Florida, and he's a very special man. So we'll see how it goes. I think he's going to try very hard.
Thank you, President.
Thank you.
I get accused by MSM sometimes of fear-mongering when they're the ones that are actually pushing the world towards war. Quite frankly, I was sitting back looking at my children last night and this morning at breakfast, but at dinner and breakfast, and I was just thinking to myself how crazy this is and how the world has probably never been this close to all-out nuclear war than we are right now. That's what the analysts are saying. It's what the Chinese communists are saying. It's what the Pentagon's saying. It's what North Korea is saying. And you add all these other factors, Russia and Syria and social unrest and collapsing third world countries with huge migrant flows, we are entering a time of unprecedented crisis. Now, let me go over some of these headlines for radio listeners that tie into what I was just breaking down with this huge, and that's what it is, showdown tomorrow. I'm definitely going to have to be sitting by the little pocket studio that is an iPhone or Droid and being ready to go live tomorrow if anything begins to unfold, because tomorrow is the birthday of the first dictator of Korea, Kim Jong-un's grandfather, Kim Jong-il's father. And they are saying they're going to test their biggest atomic weapon yet tomorrow. Strangely enough, on an active fault line, they're right there in the middle of the Pacific Rim, right across from Japan, by a quasi-active volcano. So we're literally entering a James Bond movie with a lot of seismologists, mainstream news saying it could cause a major earthquake or the volcano to explode like Mount St. Helens. NBC News, U.S. may launch strike if North Korea reaches for nuclear trigger. Now, the president came out, we have a clip coming up, it's on Infowars.com, and he said North Korea is a problem that will be taken care of. I've given the military total authorization. That clip's coming up as well, but here are the headlines, because I tend to want to dial stuff back, but Japan's readying for nuclear war. Japan's getting 60,000 people out of South Korea, their citizens. North Korea just evacuated most people out of their capital city. This is serious. And you've got power-tripping loons in North Korea that can't even build an automobile and can't even keep electricity on but in 2 cities. But they've got a brainwashed mass of slaves that'll do whatever they're told in human wave attacks. And they've had a dictatorship since before the Korean War that killed over 1 million people on both sides. More bombs were dropped on North Korea in the Korean War, the Korea Police Action as it was called by the UN, than were dropped in all the Pacific Theater in World War II. So the Koreans are just kept in fear, ready for the U.S. to invade any minute, as they're told from birth to death, from cradle to grave, from the time they come out of their mother's womb till the time they get put 6 feet under. China warns World War III is inevitable as North Korea prepares latest nuke test. So we're in a massive countdown here. So let's look it up. When do they, let's look up actually. I meant to do this last night but forgot to. Can you guys do some research? My great team is even better at research than I run on the show. They do a great job there as well. But if the whole research team in there can look at past atomic tests, there's been 6 since Kim Jong-un ascended the communist throne of the people. Total oxymoron, but that's how it always works. When did they test them last time? During the day, late at night? Seems like sometimes in the middle of the night here, but that's in the middle of the day there. And that's where the time zones basically, what time is it in North Korea right now? Because we're talking in 12 hours or how long, most of their days already going to be up over there. They're 13 hours ahead of us. So 13 hours from now, it'll be almost tomorrow here. So in the middle of the night tonight, when you tuck your children in to go to bed, from any time on then, they can do the test. In fact, sooner. If they're 13 hours ahead, then it's almost the 15th there right now. So anytime in the next 24 hours or so, they detonate this nuclear weapon, and there's been rumblings that Trump might strike it. And I understand why we haven't struck them before, because we don't have a nuclear war, but Kim Jong-un keeps getting better and better weapons, better and better missiles. Every week, the last few months, he fires a missile from North Korea 90 kilometers over and has high-powered missiles with conventional payloads to explode right off the Japanese coast, menacing them, saying, we'll launch nerve gas, we'll launch atomic weapons, we'll nuke you. If one shot gets fired by South Korea on the DMZ, if anything happens, if we hear a car backfire, we are going to unleash nuclear weapons on Japan, nuclear weapons on South Korea, conventional artillery barrage of 100,000 pieces of artillery. They don't have electricity, but they got artillery. Like any other knuckle-dragging communist hellhole. And then meanwhile, right next door, South Korea is 40 times more prosperous and one of the richest countries in the world. And they never had any freedom until the United States liberated them. They never had freedom. Koreans were always slaves. And now they get 50-something years of somewhat freedom, and they're the apple of the world's eye when it comes to so many things. Just there you go. Oh, but MIT's teaching high school and elementary school and middle school teachers how to teach communism to your class. Published by MIT. That's the technology we teach in America now. We invented the internet, but now we teach how to be good little communists. It's amazing. So China warns World War III is inevitable as North Korea prepares latest nuke test. We will go to war if they choose. North Korea warns aggressive Trump not to provoke the North Korean capital. Breaking, Japan preparing to evacuate 60,000 citizens from South Korea. Now, this is a story from the UK Express that is hype, and I'm not defending Trump. I've looked at the already troop developments, the troop movements that were ordered under Obama that are continuing. Donald Trump edges closer to Russia. U.S. soldiers land in Europe after Afghan Moab. Donald Trump has sent U.S. military to Poland to joint NATO multinational battalion just after the U.S. president dropped the mother of all bombs, the Moab, on Afghanistan. Those troop deployments are rotations. They were already set. Obama put the order in to increase troops by at least 10,000 in the middle of last year. Remember that? Well, that's part of these rotations now taking place. Tillerson has said that the U.S.-Russian relations have hit bottom. That's a diplomatic way, in my research view, it's my opinion, researched opinion, to then say they need to get better. We've hit bottom, to shut down all the claims we're soft on Russia, saying we've hit bottom, now let's come back up. And, of course, that's what he said in the speech as well. Trump may send 50,000 troops to Syria. Well, I told you a couple weeks ago that from our sources, but also MSM admits it, they just don't say the numbers, there's well over 10,000 troops just the last month that have been injected into Iraq and into Syria. And right there in the border region, and they're forcing al-Qaeda, ISIS out. So that's all part of this escalation. Trump says it's just so that we can defeat al-Qaeda and ISIS and have their flank covered. I'll take that at face value because the president's done most of what he said he would do. But I got to tell you, I don't like it, and I'm watching it very, very closely because that makes Iraq and Afghanistan, that are horrible quagmires. Afghanistan is the known definition of a quagmire in the encyclopedia. This will be much, much worse than that. So that's just some of what we've got here, and I'm going to cover a lot more when we come back from break. But undoubtedly, when I go to bed tonight, while I'm sitting here right now. I mean, we're talking about an hour or so. It's going to be the new day over in the Korean Peninsula and the South China Sea and Japan and China. How this works is there's different angles, but they nuke test. And then they start preparing to fire more rockets into the South China Sea, something they said they're getting ready to do. In fact, they told U.S. media, North Korea did yesterday, their state-run media said, prepare for a big event in the next 24 hours. Well, we're now 24 hours later. And I looked at that and I thought, 24 hours, that's the 14th, not the 15th. But when they said it, it was basically 24 hours for them. Because right now, as we speak in the next hour or so, it's going to be tomorrow there. So I thought, the big event's on the 15th. Why would they say it'd be today? And I went, oh, we're on the other side of the world. That's right. So starting basically right now, that lunatic on a power trip is sitting on top of a bunch of atomic weapons and delivery systems that can hit Japan, South Korea, China, you name it. And that's why China has said, we need to de-escalate this right now, and North Korea, turn back your coal, your main export, and we may have to nuke you if you test a nuke. We don't know the deal behind the scenes with Trump and the Chinese dictator, but they've signaled that maybe Trump's going to sit back and the Chinese are going to hit North Korea. And the reason that the clock's ticking on this is they're getting better and better weapons. They're getting better missiles. So we just can't sit there and leave it alone anymore. That's why this is coming to a head. China warns World War III is inevitable as North Korea prepares latest nuke test. Daily Express, Pyongyang, or however you say it, playing with fire. Trump prepared to intervene. World War III is near. Officials in China have warned as North Korea prepares for yet another nuclear missile test. And the U.S. and Donald Trump are poised to intervene. Now, the good news is Trump is signaling that he probably won't respond to a nuclear test. But if they fire another missile and then it crashes a couple miles off the coast of Japan and almost kills people in fishing boats, has happened multiple times, they're going to have to respond. Because he keeps threatening to put atomic weapons or nerve gas on top of them. You can't just sit there with a gun firing across your neighbor's yard when they're out there, you know, mowing the grass or whatever. That's basically what Kim Jong-un's doing. I don't particularly want Trump to strike, but what are you supposed to do when we have defense treaties with Japan, when they're getting upset, and then China's gotten so belligerent, us letting North Korea run around and do all this, that they're taking over the South China Sea. So this is Trump reasserting American sovereignty and dominance in with our key trading partners. We're going to open the phones up and get your take on how you think Trump is handling this when we come back at the next segment. China calls for halt to U.S.-North Korea tensions. The media had spun this saying, oh, North Korea says there's a big event coming the next day. And then I guess it was, Daria pointed this out to me, it was a street opening. So they hyped it like a big event was coming. There's other big events, too, the nuclear test. They've talked about that for a long time, but our media ran with this, so that's an example of how you get more information. Concerns have been growing that North Korea could soon conduct a sixth nuclear test or more missile launches in defiance of UN sanctions and stark warnings from the United States that its policy of strategic patience was over. There has been speculation that Donald Trump, who has now ordered missile strikes in Syria and Afghanistan, was preparing to preemptive strike on the rogue state before the weekend. American bombers have been placed in Guam ready to strike if the call comes. North Korea has denounced the U.S. for bringing huge nuclear strategic assets to the Korean Peninsula, with a U.S. aircraft carrier group headed for the region in preparation for leader Kim Jong-un's latest demonstration of his country's military muscle. And all these crises were bubbling and boiling and starting to erupt before Trump got in. But how do you think Trump's handled it? I'd say a third of our audience absolutely wants to break with Trump now. Another 70% or so like the economic stuff that's happened. They like the Americana. They like cutting the UN funding by 50% and the stock market being up and building a border wall. A lot of those promises are being followed through on. Taking out ISIS and Al-Qaeda, that's a promise he's fallen through on. But I get how people are concerned, because if you look at him with a straight trajectory until about 70 days ago, it was a straight trajectory on where he said he was going. And then with the health care bill, he started going like this. Now with some of the other things, they're not really flip-flops because China did raise their currency. So no need for a currency war. They actually folded. They actually choked. But then once he didn't do one thing he said he would do, because that bill was bad, people now are taking all the other stuff and saying, oh, look, he's breaking his promise on that now. And pretty soon you start turning the boat, even if it's just 4 or 5 degrees at first, and you stay on that course. Pretty soon you just kind of start going in circles or kind of go back where you were. He can't get anybody appointed is the main problem. Most of the executive seats are open. So he was trying to go perfectly straight. Did he then start putting establishment people in? Because there's no one in the establishment but the establishment, and everybody works under these establishment wonks, these establishment kingpins, so you've got to hire them so that they'll bring their teams in, but then you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And that's the word of why frustrated, and that was the inside baseball 65, 70 days ago, that he literally had the whole government in revolt against him. They were getting ready to assassinate him, probably still are, openly calling for his overthrow. He started compromising. And now you see him going off into wherever. Okay, so Donald Trump's a bad guy. Let's just have that as a postulate. Not saying that's the case, but for the sake of argument. And he's joined the goblins. What does that mean? And where would we be right now if Hillary was in place? 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. I'm Alex Jones. Your phone calls are straight ahead. All right, your phone calls are coming up in just a moment. We have some amazing callers, a lot of military people with amazing insight on this big crisis that's taking place worldwide. We have a lot of militaristic groups like the neocons, the establishment left, that want America to be a big empire. They want to work with Saudi Arabia to overthrow more secular states and put in Wahhabist tyrannies. That's what's happening in Syria. That's why I'm against this war, because Obama and the globalists started it. That's admitted fact. We've got some clips of Assad I'm going to get to, and then, of course, your phone calls. But Assad's saying the same thing I said a week and a half ago when this all started. He has no motive to do it. The rebels have been caught doing it before. They rushed with the attacks. They blamed them with no evidence. CNN's famous for lying. Our own military doesn't buy it. So people then say, well, that's horrible then of Trump to do that. And I get what you're saying. And then I sit back and I think they're saying he's a Russian agent. They say he's soft on Syria. If he wouldn't have done something, they would have ended up impeaching him and removing him and having a wider giant war. So for the first time in my life, it's weird to have a president who I think's really working for us and trying to defeat the globalists and trying to make America great again, but actually using some of their tricks against them, like judo. And I said the argument clearly is that they agreed to destroy the chemicals and hadn't. And so that's what Trump's standing on. Then I learned that's exactly what Trump was saying privately. I told you that on Sunday. And then on Tuesday, he came out and said that word for word. So it's not just he's telling people over the telephone or in the Oval Office this stuff. We put a transcript out of it. He then comes out and says it publicly. I just want peace. And I want Trump to be real. And I want Trump to deliver on the things he says he's been doing. He just signed an executive order blocking abortion funding here in the U.S. In fact, I forgot to print that. I'm sure it's here in the stack, but I got here late today. I was taking care of some family work and some family issues, and I was reading his new executive order on abortions. That's delivering. Haven't seen that with other presidents, have you? Other Republicans. I mean, he's so much better than even Ronald Reagan on what he's actually done. Now, there's the New York Times. Trump signs law taking aim at Planned Parenthood funding because the Republicans in the spending bill wouldn't do it. They funded it for another 6 years. That's Margaret Sanger. That's the eugenicist. That's where Hitler got all his ideas. Hey, have your Planned Parenthood. I shouldn't have to pay for it. And then liberals go, do you want all those poor black babies? And I go, wow, you're really racist. They are the biggest race-baiting group I've ever seen. By the way, I don't normally just cover articles because I'm in them, because there's usually hundreds of articles a day attacking me, TV shows, you name it, national news. But this one article out of Salon I'm going to get to later if I have time. I'm going to cover this when Cernovich is in studio with us. I should have mentioned Mike Cernovich is in studio with us today. Got some other special guests. Gavin McGinnis. Not even Alex Jones is able to defend Sean Spicer's historically ignorant comments about Holocaust centers. And then you read the article, and it's all disinfo, things I didn't say, lies. Oh, look, there's Roger Stone on Salon. And they're sitting there like a pack of pseudo-intellectual rats, and they have this quote here that Jones tried to defend Spicer on his gassing comment, saying he meant like not dropping gas on people. A tone-deaf remark to anyone who considers Jews, POWs, ethnic Poles, Romanian nomads, the physically and mentally disabled, gays, and others are people. Now, what they did was clip off where I said, drop gas on people on the battlefield. That's what I said. But did do it. And I guess they don't even do their own research at Salon. So they then plagiarized what I said and put that as a quote of what I didn't cover. Ladies and gentlemen, do you realize the magnitude? This is next level lying. This is next level lying. So I only single this out as an example of total sophistic fraud. When I say plagiarizing, they change the words around a little bit, but it's like identity theft. I come and accurately, historically show where Spicer's wrong in a nice way. They then flip it, say I've attacked him, put a bunch of other bull in the article about stuff I never said or out of context. Then they say, oh, but Jones didn't consider anybody the Nazis killed with gas, even though he said the Nazis did kill people with gas. He says they're not people. When I specifically didn't just say he killed people with gas, I listed the groups they killed, which for some reason the media never mentions anybody else that was killed by Nazis. I don't know why. And then they turned that into anti-Semitism by me. Wow, that is people living in an echo chamber of fraud. That is upset beatniks, basically. Fourth generation beatniks, just scum, mercenaries. I mean, Salon has articles routinely promoting pedophilia as a good thing. That's who we're dealing with here. They have weird perv videos with, you know, men talking about how they love 5-year-old girls and showing video of 5-year-old girl dancing around or 4-year-old girl. I mean, and then all they've got is you're anti-Semitic. What? I say Sean Spicer's wrong. Hitler used chemical weapons just not on the battlefield on people, but then on all these other groups. On the battlefield on people, but on people medically and starting with the infirm and the medically, and I list all these groups. I listed those groups in my critique. They cut that off, go, oh, interesting. We're uncreative people. Let's just take the groups he said Hitler killed, put it in there, and then say he didn't say them. Whoa. What do you call a lie like that? I don't even, because you're reading lies like this, and it's just like, it's next level. It's every lie you can imagine combined into one big, giant fraud. But then I've noticed in their writing, all over mainstream media, they've got such uncreative people that what they do is they simply invert what I say. Spicer's wrong. Hitler was gassed himself in World War II twice by mustard gas, so he hated it in the use against military, who he saw as chivalrous and on his same level. I'm not endorsing that. I'm telling you what Hitler said and wrote in Mein Kampf. Might want to go read it. You actually want to know what he said. You actually want to be scholarly instead of a sophistic fop that sits there and acts like you are, saying you're liberal because you wear different color socks and have a, you know, dirty mustache or whatever and walk around like trendy, trendy. I mean, this is the real world. So I sit there and I lay out exactly in a quick snapshot of what Hitler really did, but that he used massive chemicals on autistic children and the infirm and the mentally retarded and all these, you know, nomadic groups and gypsies and Jews and on and on and on and on. And they say he didn't even humanize. He said that the Jews weren't humans. Oh, the evil of Jones. So again, they take my name to attack Spicer, lie that I'm attacking Spicer, then put all these things I didn't say or didn't do or twist them, then say that I said Jews weren't humans, and then take the quotes I gave in the video live on air of what I did talk about and the groups that were hit, humanizing those people, and then they take that, humanize them, lie, cut it off, and say that I dehumanized them. Wow. Next level fraud. And you think this is masterful. No, it's not. They invert. It's because of no creativity. You're like, how could that lie be so extensive and so big and so complex? Because if you invert the truth, you're still looking at the truth. It's just upside down. So you look at it and you go, whoa. See, this is a big secret they've got. That their lies are pure inversions, so that they're not just some made-up fantasy. They have some type of aura of truth because you're looking at the truth. It's just upside down. But you read it basically upside down or backwards, or switch whatever they're saying before they give you a paragraph, and then you have the truth. All right, I said I'd go to your calls, and I want to, and I've got a bunch of clips to go to as well. It's just that that's why I get overwhelmed when I come in here and look at 30, 40, 50, 100, 200, 300 articles a day some days, and then just each one is just so over the top how they deceive and how they manipulate and how they lie and the things they do. It's just incredible. But we are the big countdown. Chinese saying nuclear war is inevitable if they fire a missile into the South China Sea, and Trump says he will shoot it down. He may attack if they do a nuclear test. And China says it's inevitable in their people's daily. They say North Korea playing with fire, Trump prepared to intervene. And it's definitely his fault. He's the one doing it. So what do we do, just roll over to this guy forever? Well, China has signaled they may nuke North Korea if they make the wrong move, so the United States doesn't have to do it. So this is a serious time, and don't take the fact that we haven't had a major regional or larger war in a long time as the fact that it can't happen. The longer we go without one, historically, it tends to mean we're getting closer to it. Kind of like we're 12 years behind on a 7.6 or more in the whole San Andreas Fault area of Southern California, and then that goes all the way up into the other faults in San Francisco. And they say now that they're overdue for a 8.2 or more, because the longer it goes from a 7-something to an 8-something with their seismographs, with their seismology, with their understanding of it. So it's a good thing we haven't had that giant earthquake, but the longer it goes, the more pressure builds up. What a time to be alive. Massive earthquake along the San Andreas Fault is disturbingly imminent. See, there's your headline from mainstream media. That's from, I guess, Telemundo with their Gizmodo front group. So, we're going to go to your phone calls. Briefly, we are a listener-supported broadcast. The enemy's gone after all our sponsors, pretty much. Your ads on the network, that's mainly their sponsors. We have a few good sponsors. They're great folks, but we mainly just direct sell high-quality products, whether it's T-shirts with Molon Labe for men and women, or whether it's high-quality nutraceuticals. And we're selling a whole bunch of them at really, really good prices for an Easter special that goes through Monday. And I want to thank you all for your support. But Brain Force is great. You should try it out. Now 20% more in each bottle. And it's 30% off right now. Sign up for auto ship to get another shipment in 15 days, a month, 2 months, 6 months, whatever you want. It's one click. You can cancel anytime. Get an additional 10% off and support the tip of the spear. 30% off Brain Force. 25% off Super Mel Vitality. 25% off Vitamin Mineral Fusion. 25% off Secret 12 Vitamin B12. 25% off Super Female Vitality. 25% off Survival Shield X2, and many, many others at InfoWarsStore.com. And again, we've been kicked off Google more and more, banned on ad roll, and that's fine. It's actually made us open up, find new sources, new platforms, and actually good things are happening. It makes us innovate. It makes us grow. That's what doesn't kill you, only makes you stronger. Friedrich Nietzsche also said, don't stare into the abyss too long, because you'll become the abyss. And I kind of get that at this point in my life. I'll be honest with folks. I'm going to do a real hard run at this another 5 years. And I tend to hand the reins over to somebody and then maybe just kind of do a broadcast once a week, totally focused, write books, be more scholarly, which I really am behind the scenes. Because being under these big lights, the blue lights frying my eyeballs and doing this, it's just, you know, these globalists always trying to run me out of business or destroy me or kill me. All you do is give me energy to fight because it makes me know how bad you are. I would have already waddled off into the sunset. I'm just trying to stabilize things for my children. But again, lesser people that come from scum, that hate others and want to pull down prosperity, they can't help it, and they're never going to leave those of us that are good alone. They're never going to leave people that are chivalrous alone. So we just have to be here. We have to be on air. We have to stand against these people. But again, I want to thank you all for your support. I want to thank you all for everything you've done over the years to pray for us and to financially support us and to buy the products. And I just want to encourage everybody out there to understand that when you buy products at InfoWarsStore.com, whether it's a water filtration system or whether it is a package of high-quality non-GMO heirloom seeds, or whether it is a Bolon Labe t-shirt, or whether it's the nutraceuticals that are massively discounted for the Christian holiday of Easter and our risen Christ. People don't like hearing that. It's, well, Christians are under attack. We're told to shut up and cover up crosses in the big churches and roll over and, you know, don't hand out Christmas cards because that's a violation of church and state. No, it's not. We're going to start exercising our rights. We're going to exercising our free speech because we've been bullied long enough. We've been too tolerant of people that are intolerant. That stops now. We don't want a bunch of refugees here with 50-to-1 rates of raping people and then raping all over Sweden and truck attacks everywhere, and the controlled press won't even tell you it's Muslims. We're going to talk about it. We're done. You want a war? You got one. You got it? This is what it looks like. This is what it is. You're going to get more of it. 30% off Brain Force, 25% off Super Male Vitality, 25% off Mineral Fusion. Great for your kids. Great for you. Great tasting fruit punch, but real organic minerals, vitamins, cofactors, amino acids to get the upload. It is an amazing concentrate. It's got a whole bunch of reviews, 787 reviews. What is that, 4.8? Power Reviews, InfoWarsLife.com. Let's read a review here from Darren in an undisclosed location. Highly recommended. I wish I would give this 10 stars. Super Male Vitality. I use the product every day. It gives me tons of energy, stamina, and feel stronger than I've ever felt. It's a game changer no matter what age someone is. This product will give you the results you won't find anywhere else. Thank you for your support, sir. Survival Shield X2, by the way, selling out. It's available and discounted 25% and more. Sign up for our free newsletter every day at InfoWars.com/newsletter and get 50% off deals on select items. We'll be back with your phone calls in T-minus 3 minutes. Zach in Florida, Army vet. We're going to go to Connor, Motto, Anthony, Janet, and others. Thank you so much for calling today on this Friday transmission, Zach.
Hey, Alex, how you doing? Great show, and I love the work you're doing.
Thank you.
One thing I wanted to bring up, again, I was in South Korea in 2009 working with Patriot missile units there. And when I got back to Tampa, you know, down McDill and CENTCOM area, there were some terms flying around. And one of them, it's public knowledge, it's called strategic patience. And the CFR on their official website, it's all over their stuff. And really what they're doing, I think this stuff was initially published 2008, 2009. They're pretty much alluding to the fact that this was going to occur. And, you know, they knew the tests were going on. You could see everything that they've published there. And this idea of, well, we don't know what's going on, this is unstable, it's pretty ridiculous because essentially if you read into the literature, what they were doing was waiting for them to get the capability in order to, you know, perpetrate this out when they had the right person in office. So this is pretty deep when all this stuff happened in Syria.
Well, that's why I love talking to veterans and people that have actually been over there, because that's exactly what's happening. The Clintons in 95 and 96 gave them the reactor and the fissile material enough to make, the news reported, over 100 bombs. And the Republicans called it treason, but then a bunch of neocons supported it. Why in the world, when there's 4 or 5 other reactors that you could give them in a deal not to build nukes, would you give them the reactor to make the nukes? So now here we are, 20 years later. Here we are, 20 years later, dealing with this, and as you said, they call it strategic tension or whatever, and they say that, you know, strategic patience. No, they're building up a trigger for World War III, just like Joel Skousen, who was a Marine Corps officer, heavily dialed into the elites, knowing what they're doing. He says this is their plan. Go ahead.
Yes, and, you know, I was there during 2009, 2010, and, you know, they said that there was a failed missile test right after they shelled that South Korean fishing boat. We were on lockdown. We knew what was going on. But it really wasn't failed, and I'm going to leave it right there. I mean, they were doing things that were so provocative and, you know, could have been deemed, you know, for the force of escalation to be ramped up immediately. But this wasn't going to happen because they were setting up Libya at the time, and that became that administration's goal. It shifted from the South Pacific into Libya and that whole fiasco. However, with Trump being in there now, the CFR is in this position where if you read what they got on their websites, it's pretty interesting because this whole strategic patience thing is just this weird game that they talk about openly years before these things unfold.
And then now they've used it to let North Korea flex its muscles and give China cover to grab the South China Sea, all part of a globalist plan to set China up and then double-cross the United States later. And the word is I've got from high up, Donald Trump and others are now double-crossing the globalist. And so Trump's not perfect, but they're pissed, folks, because he is double-crossing them. He is having America stand back up, and that's why they're freaking out.
There is a war between the CFR and the DOD, and it's very, very deep. And all these maneuvers, with the fake news and everybody and the mainstream media, the way that...
Exactly. I'm not lionizing the DOD, but there is a war with what's left of the military that's still for America with the globalists. It's not the military's perfect. It just understands that this is a total sellout of the country. They're not going along with it. So that's the internal battle going on right now. And that's exactly what's happening. That's why Trump's trying to strengthen the military right now as the icon of America so that we side with it and not the globalist. Now, did you figure this out from being there or reading their own publications? Both. Stay there. I'm going to come right back to you, Zach. These are great callers, man. It's not Alex Jones. It's the info war. It's you, the listeners. You are the power. It's not patronization. It's the truth. So look in the mirror. You are the resistance. I love taking calls, but the calls are so good, especially when they're military vets or experts. I'll never get to the other calls, but finishing up, Zach, in Florida, if you read the CFR, the globalist, they're hijackers of nation states, transferring power to offshore combines that are above the law, tax exempt, setting up a breakaway civilization technocracy in their own words, and actually trying to suck the United States dry and then demonize us for the whole global government system they themselves set up. And so this is a huge awakening happening with Trump. So it's the bigger issue of globalism and crisis instead of having the leftist talking point that Trump's beginning to not, execute 100% of what he said. That doesn't even really matter in the final equation. What matters is the people awakening to the paradigm. So what you're saying is absolutely on target, and you're saying you were aware of this in the military. How many other people were aware, and how did you wake up to it?
Well, being aware is kind of interesting there, depending on your job and if you see things from a different magnification. But I would say everyone's pretty aware. But at the time that I was there, 2009, 2010, the tone in the media wasn't as such. Everything was honed in on the Middle East. But make no mistake, when you got 30,000 troops there and all the artillery that we specialize in there, obviously something was going on. However, with the current administration that they had in South Korea, they weren't going to play ball with Obama and them. So as you see the South Korean, this latest South Korean president being impeached, Trump going to Taiwan, and the shift going on, it's so deep that I don't think people understand the reality of it. We're so, this instant gratification, we don't get it. But in CENTCOM, I'm down in the Tampa, Florida area, and that's pretty much Pentagon South, but it's pretty open about what's going on there. I mean, they were just waiting for this to happen. But when Trump shifted with the Syria attacks before meeting the Chinese president Mar-a-Lago, that was a signal to anybody on that peninsula who knows what they're doing, who happens to be in artillery, air defense predominantly, that things are changing and they're happening quickly. And the CFR stuff I caught wind of in 2010. I probably shouldn't get into that, but 2010, talking to some people down in CENTCOM, but it's public knowledge. They're so brazen. It's on their website. Nobody reads this stuff. Nobody's going to go read the actual literature on the CFR, but it's been there. It's time-stamped. You can go see it right now. And
well, you're absolutely right. And so Trump is playing 5D chess here, and he's for real. He's irrevocably wrecking globalism with just his actions transferring power back to the Republic. Until just 20, 30 years ago, presidents didn't micromanage the military. They had missions. Congress authorized it. He's transferring power back to the states, back to the people, back to the military, back to doctors in the medical facilities. The globalists set up a technocracy to control everybody. Trump is devolving power back. And that's the real mission of the patriots and the intelligence agencies and the civil war that's taking place right now. And I'm just glad that, that the military is so informed about what's happening. And I hope the public understands just how serious this is. But from your research, what do you think? I mean, do you think Trump's being compromised by being threatened, or do you think he's still following through?
Trump is definitely following through. I don't think people realize the severity of every single kinetic movement that's going on right now. The kinetic momentum that is building worldwide is just it's very important. And the only reason I'm making this call right now, I'd usually kind of stay off some of this stuff because some of it's kind of touchy. But I got friends who are there right now. There's 30,000 U.S. troops there right now. They're sending Pence there. Understand this, in the United States Army, this weekend is a 4-day weekend. People are down. We are on alert, make no mistake, but just generally, when you have weekends like this, forces are down, people's awareness is down. And I think something big is happening. I think it's going to happen in the next 24 to 48 hours. I'll leave it right there, and it might come from the Chinese. But make no mistake, it'll be in coordination with us. It's China, South Korea, and the United States, and they realize that finally the problem child someone finally has to, have the intervention and sit them down. And
that's right. And there were back-channel globalist traders helping North Korea the whole time out of our country. That's why China kind of let them do what they were doing. Wow, powerful call. Thank you, Zach. All right, I'm going to go to your phone calls early in this hour because you've been holding over from the last hour. And Mike Cernovich is just a really interesting guy. He can obviously co-host with me and answer all the questions. Great. He'll be doing a 2-hour live special feed that we're doing from 3 to 5 today Central. That'll be on Infowars.com. And then we'll also interview him. We're going to make him work pretty hard today for the nightly news. But he just did an 11-hour broadcast the other day on the eve of the missile strikes. So I'm sure he can handle it. His website is Danger and Play. And, of course, there's Medium.com at Cernovich. He's a filmmaker, a lawyer, associate producer, The Red Pill. Also, he's made a bunch of other films and documentaries. But you can find out more on his website. In fact, what's the best website to go to, Danger and Play?
No, I'm sending people to Medium now because that got the Drudge Report blog roll. Two big events happened in my life. One is I've been on 60 Minutes, and I'd rather be here than 60 Minutes. This is a big deal for me, right, Alex? I'm a little nervous right now.
Well, getting linked on Drudge is more important to be on Alex Jones' show.
Wow, they're both great.
Well, it's good to have you here. The huge media revolution's awesome. It's very exciting. They've gone to next level lies. I want to talk to you about that some later and play some clips. But things are really, really, really starting to get crazy. And I know we're winning, but I think, as the caller said earlier, because I was thinking that this morning, I said, I'm going to go on air and I'm going to say, people want instant gratification from Trump. And we're 84 days in, and he's already gotten more done than Reagan ever did. He's done some things I'm concerned about. But he's not Hillary Clinton. The globalists legitimately do not like him. There's a civil war in the government about America taking America back. It doesn't mean there are a bunch of angels at the Pentagon and stuff that are in the Civil War. You just heard the guy earlier, obviously calling from Florida. He knew what he was talking about, by the way. That was high-level stuff. I of course, say that info, know that info, but he was dead on. And about the word that China is looking right now to strike North Korea this weekend. We're not saying that's going to happen, but that's where all this is going. This is just an incredible time to be alive, and I'm critical of Trump, and by being loyal opposition, he listens to us. And I'm just going to leave it at that. And he needs our support. If they're smart enough to run us away and have the media celebrate that everybody's going to turn on Trump because he shot some missiles at Syria or whatever, then there's a vacuum. They come in, they get control. Our enemies want us to turn on Trump. And people say, oh, you're just butt-kissing Trump. It's not about Trump. It's about the awakening. It's about an anti-globalist president being successful. So we need to criticize him when he's bad, but go after him when he's and support him when he's doing good. But I'm ranting, Mike. You're here to be interviewed. What do you want to cover today?
Well, I want to cover, there's a lot of things that can cover. One is that just so your listeners, not that they doubted that at all, they know that this is where you get breaking news. McMaster has a plan to send in ground troops to Syria. That story actually broke here on InfoWars 4 or 5 days ago. Bloomberg is covering it. So essentially whatever you're reading in the news today or tomorrow, this is all going to be on InfoWars 5, 10, 15 days before it ever reaches the mainstream. That is how good the sourcing is here. This is for real news, fake news. That is why not only are they trying to divide the base against Trump, they are now slandering Alex and me and other patriots, calling us Russian agents, claiming that a hashtag that I'd started after one of my callers suggested it was actually a Russian operation. So they realize that this is the only place for real news, and now they're trying to attack and lie about us and claiming that we're Russian agents and all that.
And we don't want to sit here and brag and say we're right, we're right, we're right. They keep saying we're lying, we're lying, we're lying, because weeks ago and then last week we said, no, McMaster wants the troops. That's my source. from the White House. Then you have your source. He wants 150,000 on the ground. Now Bloomberg comes out today and says Trump has told Bloomberg, I don't want a war, but it turns out the aides were doing exactly like we said, trying to jockey and get them in place and move artillery in that wasn't for ISIS, but was for Assad.
Exactly. So Bloomberg is now reporting what we covered a week ago. And one thing that frustrates me a little bit is the idea that we need Bloomberg to validate our reporting, because this is real news. We don't make stuff up like ABC does, like Bloomberg does. They fabricate things.
I put a transcript out of what the president said on Monday. It's what the president said, and I'm not going to say where it came from. Everybody knows we have contact with the president. The media is attacking that, saying, oh, look, Alex is making this up. What? I said it. It came out 3 days later out of his mouth, the exact same words.
Right, exactly. And that has happened so many times now. So, yeah, it isn't that we're bragging. People say, oh, it's about ego. It's not about ego. But when every day you're called fake news, you're lied about, when you get things right, you do have to remind people, look, watch what the fake news media is calling us. Watch what they're saying about us. And they are so desperate for war now that they're trying to claim that us, by trying to oppose a ground war in Syria, trying to save American lives. I mean, Alex, when I did that live stream, 11 hours, so many mothers called in and said, my son has PTSD. This is so sad. You know, it was heartbreaking. I could hardly even stay on the line. It was so sad. Moms do not want to do another war. They do not want the McMaster plan to go through.
Exactly. And again, we love our military. We criticize the wars. It's because it's not for our national sovereignty. It's not for our interest. Trump is doing limited things to build up the military in the eyes of the people, to give them faith in that, because the military's in an internal war with the globalists, with the CFR, and the Pentagon is taught this now. They know this. This is out in the open. This is even down to the enlisted people. There's a civil war in America to restore the republic. Is our champion perfect? Absolutely not. He can't even get people appointed in government because they are blocking him.
Yeah, they're blocking security clearances, and that's kind of another point. Is a lot of the media is trying to say that we are dividing which Trump, the base is divided. We're not divided. No matter what Trump does, he has already been so fundamentally better. We got a Supreme Court justice who's actually going to defend the Constitution. Maybe not as good as Scalia, but he's certainly going to be way better than anybody Hillary Clinton would have done. Hillary Clinton wanted to shut down InfoWars. InfoWars,
she said she wanted to.
Yeah, you would not exist. If Hillary Clinton were in office, you would have federal agents kicking down the door, deep state agents kicking down the door, calling you God knows what. They would frame you for crimes.
They're already trying right now, even though Hillary's people are still there. They're still operating like it's no big deal. In fact, I've confirmed that they've already had the Attorney General have to stop several operations against us that are incredibly nasty. And we're not here whining. We want to fight with the globalists. We want to beat them. We just want you to know how serious this is. You know, it's funny you mentioned that. Let's pull up the Economist article that attacked us. And I'm told this is in the magazine as well. This is one of the most elite publications published by the Rothschilds. I mean, you can't make that up. And they literally say, we're dupe idiots, and Assad tells us what to say. So now it's not just we're dupes of Putin. Now it's Assad. No. We said first on Wednesday, false flag. We had the articles, the history, all of it. You did as well. Then over the next week and a half, everybody else from Putin to Ron Paul, everybody else came out and said it was a false flag. Again, we're the progenitors. We're not here grabbing it, you know, from Assad. Oh, look, we're useful idiots.
Right.
How a pair of self-publicists wound up as apologists for Assad. We're not apologizing for Assad. He didn't start the civil war 6 years ago. He's never done anything to us. And Hillary and Obama were trying to put Al-Qaeda in. And WikiLeaks came out yesterday. New WikiLeaks, Hillary saying, we're on the side of Al-Qaeda. Stop attacking them. We already knew that. In fact, David Knight David Knight, if he's over there, please bring that in. I mean, this is so crazy. Everything we say has just because we're going off what's already there and the sources we have. Because we've got sources. I've got sources. You've got sources. You broke the Susan Rice, said they're sitting on the story. Hour later, they came out, admitted it.
Yep.
We're not making up these sources.
No, there's patriots, and that's what a lot of people got to understand is that there are patriots, and the patriots know that they can go to fearless people like Alex Jones, that the stories are going to get out there. So that is why I tell people to be hopeful and don't believe that the deep state is evil. The deep state is evil, but don't get me wrong. There are people fighting it. There are good people inside who want the truth to get out and are opposed to the bad stuff. And the big story,
there's a civil war in the deep state.
Exactly. And the big story that we had talked about is that the security clearances are being held. That's why people have to have reason.
And you were breaking that 2 weeks ago, and now it's in the news. They're using security clearances. What's great is, though, MSM is so lazy. They actually now go and grab our stories. Then they break them a week later, whitewash, but at least it gets out.
Right, exactly. So that's what people are saying now. They just follow our Twitter and they follow our websites and they rewrite it and they make up sources that actually don't even exist that they claim to have. And again, it's true. Even when they bash us, even when they attack us, we can handle it. But the sad thing is that somebody goes, you know, Cernovich, why is Trump having a hard time finding good people? Look at what they do to Alex and I. If you don't know how to handle the media, you have to be a professional to take on the fake news media. You have to do this.
The average person, when they get called horrible names or get called anti-Semitic just out of the clear blue sky every day for no reason, like they're doing to Spicer, people buckle to that. When you're in 100 newspapers and they're saying you hate black people with no evidence, a lot of people just roll over.
Yeah, the first time, I mean, you can relate to the first time you're attacked, it does hurt. The first time you wake up and you look and there's all these nasty lies about you and people are asking you questions, it does hurt. But then you become stronger and overcome it. But the most people who just want to work and serve in government, they don't know how to handle it. They're not prepared for it psychologically. They don't know how bad and
what helps you? I mean, that you've been a lawyer and a filmmaker and a father. I mean, why do you have that tenacity?
Well, the way I look at it is that if somebody has to fight, and I know that if they're hitting us, it is because they fear us. So every time they hit me, every time they hit me, I'm like hyped. I'm like, they're lying about me again. People go, why don't you sue ABC? And I go, I love it when they lie about me. I love it when they attack me, when they hate on me, because that means they fear me, because The Economist takes their orders from the Rothschild family. So we are literally being attacked by the Rothschild. That is amazing. Oh, it feels great. I love it, knowing that that is the level of resistance we're getting, because that's the kind of impact we're having. So that is what I focus on, is the Rothschilds.
Why do you think they're focusing on us? Because they figured out our phones are tapped. They admit that. I'm under criminal investigation for being a Russian agent, so they can have all the spying. And then if Trump stops that investigation, it looks like, oh, he's covering up. I'm just like, fine, spy on me. I haven't done anything. But it's just, why do you think they're attacking us so much? Because it was Drudge. They want to get rid of him, period. And then it was Bannon, and I guess they think they're winning with him. Now it's us.
Well, I'll tell you why. This happened on the airplane. I was sitting down, holding my daughter. My wife's next to me, and a man walks on the plane, and he looks at me and goes, Mike Cernovich? And I said, yeah. And he goes, thank you, and shakes my hand. That is why. We're recognized everywhere. Every time you go out, people are like, Alex Jones, I love what you do. I love what you do. I was doing a Periscope from the Sky Lounge. This was live. And as I'm doing it, somebody in there goes, hey, I was actually watching your Periscope while you were doing it. That is the kind of penetration we have now.
Let's come back and take some calls, and then I promise we're going to into all the news. Mike Cernovich is our guest. We're going to your calls right now because the calls have been so good. Craig and Mato and Connor and Anthony and Janet and others. Mike Cernovich is here in studio with us. We've got Gavin McGinnis joining us next hour. You can ride shotgun with us. Some of you like to as well. Infowars.com is the site. But you were getting into your sources. Clearly, you were saying there is a neocon PR launch that happened a few weeks ago. I see it everywhere. The bots, the sock puppets, the lies, the total demonization. So I want you to briefly speak to that. But here's the good news. The system's so discredited, and MSM so discredited, when ABC News comes out 2 nights ago with a big piece saying we're, I forgot to mention that. You reminded me that we're literal agents of Assad. Then The Economist backs off and says, no, we're useful idiots. That's better. It's too cool to actually be secret agents of Assad. When I'm just a secret agent of freedom and don't want our government backing Al-Qaeda taking over a Christian nation and murdering everyone. See, how's that sound?
Yeah, a 7-figure, so I can report this, a 7-figure contract by the neocons has gone out on us where they're discrediting us. I'm sure you've gotten nasty emails from people about making stuff up about me and everything. So what they do now is whenever
whisper campaigns.
Yeah, whenever I go anywhere, suddenly people are like emailing Alex Jones and saying, can you believe this? Can you believe that?
Starting 2 weeks ago, I have reporters following me from my house everywhere. They've got like 6 guys on me now.
Yeah, they follow you, and that is because that 7-figure contract went out. And that is why if you read your Twitter notifications now, half of them now are like trashing you. Well, those are all fake. Those are all PR firms. It's the same David Brock, Soros.
And they're creating the illusion that we've lost support and we're bad. Just like they're creating the illusion, hey, Trump sold everybody out. Why are you for him, you sellout?
Right, exactly. So what they're doing is they're trying to discredit us amongst people by having these sock puppets say, oh, look, the people have turned on Alex, the people have turned on Cernovich.
And by the way, they admit they have these sock puppets. Then they claim Trump and that we have sock puppets. Right. But Trump wouldn't spend money on those.
No,
he had the general public promoting him. We've never used a sock puppet. Explain what those are for people who don't know. They've been around 15 years.
Yeah, so a sock puppet account is you usually outsource it to India or the Philippines or something, and you have people managing 100 Twitter accounts.
And that's why the English always doesn't make sense.
Right.
It's like, you be anti-Jew, you screw your mommy.
Right. So they put them in these boiler room style things, these big bullhorns, and you got, 100 people in a room, and each has 100 sock puppets, and they have different pictures.
That's right.
Different
No, because this is key what you're saying. 100 guys in a room is called a bullhorn. This is all admitted. So now they have shows like Homeland where I run a bullhorn.
Right.
We don't have a bullhorn, but see, again, they invert.
Right, exactly. So everything that they accuse us of doing, they're actually doing. The funny thing is I've never even actually bought an ad in my life. So I've never even bought a Facebook ad, let alone am I going to buy bots.
We bought ads for products to fund ourselves. They banned those.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're not even allowed to advertise on Google.
Right, exactly. So that's what cracks me up. So
we're like banned from the internet except for our own websites.
Well,
basically.
And that is why Obama, that is big picture because
we're already banned down to this and we're still killing them.
Well, that's exactly right.
But listeners should know we're like winning the war, but we've got our gun emplacements winning for everybody out there in the distance, but our own emplacements being overrun.
Oh, well, that is why Obama signed over control of domain names to the UN. What they're eventually going to say is Infowars.com is a hate domain. And therefore, they'll delist you from the registrar.
That came out in the WikiLeaks, Soros.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's the big game plan is like, well, we can cut off your advertising, we cut off this, we cut off that. Well, wait, but people are still sharing Infowars.com. People realize that it's a red alert, all hands on deck, share that link everywhere. Then they go, well, ban them from Facebook. Well, you still can't shut them down. What do you got to do? Well, Infowars.com is a hate domain. So we need to delist that from the Internet Domain Registry, and then that is how they take you from the Internet. That's why Obama signed over control of that.
And that's what the UN said they're going to do. Right. And Hillary was going to come in, as you said, and it announced that they were going to discredit the right forever and ban us and fix everything, and it didn't happen.
I'll be completely honest, I would not be in America, and I've talked to other very, very high-level people who said that if Hillary Clinton had won, we would have had to leave America. I would not be in America right now. I would have to be gone. You would not be, Infowars.com would not even exist on the internet. They would have filed a case against you in the UN, and the UN would have completely removed your domain. That was how disastrous and catastrophic it was.
And by the way, people say, oh, sorry, it's fake news. What you're saying as a lawyer, I've read all the WikiLeaks. It's there and their admissions. That's exactly what they were saying. Remember her dark heart speech?
Exactly. Exactly. So they attack you, and from a internet perspective, that's what you do. Take the domain off. That's what people don't realize is you might own the domain Infowars.com, but if the UN classifies that as a hate domain, then that can be completely removed off the internet. They won't let you own it. They'll sign that over to the Haitian government or the UN. And by the way, we talked about this before, another source. I hate to claim credit or on behalf of myself or Jones for such a tragic story. But we had reported about how the UN in Haiti would buy children and sources from the military, from his and mine. You could watch them hand children over the barbed wire. Well, that big story just broke about the UN and how they were raping
thousands of kids and the murdered kids. Well, we sent a plane there. We covered it. We broke it all. Exactly. Where's our Pulitzer Prize? And we're not here saying we're so great. They're shutting us down because if they could shut down a Matt Drudge or an Alex Jones or a Mike Cernovich, they can get everybody. We'll be back. I promise we're going directly to Connor, Motto, Craig, Anthony, Janet, and others. 800-25-99231. We'll talk about the Korean Showdown that starts now. All right, I'm getting these 5-6 callers that have been holding the longest out of the way. I really want to hear what they have to say. That one caller earlier was on for like 10 minutes because he was so powerful. This is out of the Hill. Obama reportedly spending a month in French Polynesia where there's no criminal extradition to the United States. And it's funny they just brought that to me because the word is Trump had tried to get them to just back off, go into absentia like Napoleon and just stop it. But they won't stop. They know the deep state came out in the news. They said they were planning to overthrow Trump. And so little birdies have told me, and then Trump came out on air 2 days ago on Fox Business and said, she's guilty, Hillary, and she should be criminally gone after. So Cernovich, just briefly, because I want to go to these calls and hear what you have to say to the callers as they've been patient. What are little birdies telling you?
I've heard the same thing, and that's another story that there's a lot of stories that I'm sitting on because some of the stuff that I know and that you know too, we get called conspiracy theorists and lied about all the time, even though our news is reported. So yeah, there's a lot of really funny business going on with Obama. But if we said it right now on air, we would be so attacked and it wouldn't even be worth it. But there's some real shady things going on with Obama right now. And where's Michelle Obama? I
mean, he openly funded the Arab Spring.
Yeah.
Think of how ballsy it was 6 years ago with Google and Facebook, and they all went to that big hotel north of London where they had Bilderberg the next year. This was in the news later, and organized the Arab Spring and the overthrow of all these secular governments and blowing up churches. And his family laundered the money in, and it all came out in court. It's like, you got to actually hand it to him, man. He actually tried an Islamic jihad takeover with Merkel, opening the borders, bringing them all in. I used to hear people like Horowitz say that, 15 years ago. I thought he was crazy.
And he's completely abandoned his daughter, who's making her rounds to the New York party scene.
And shaking her ass on TV, yeah.
And the drugs and everything. Like, remember when Jenna Bush went out and drank a little bit of beer, I think actually in Austin, Texas?
It was the end of the world.
Story. Yeah, but, Obama's basically an absentee father, abandoned. A lot of sad things going on there.
The word is those aren't even his kids.
I've heard that too, but...
These people are total cutouts.
Well, they're manufactured, because that is why the deep state wanted him in. That's why they wanted Mitt Romney, and that's why they freaked out so badly about Trump. And we talked about
notice he's staying out of the U.S. right as they move to try to overthrow Trump.
Right, exactly. And by the way, I do want to get something on the record. We talked about it on break, which is that I will never turn on Trump. I might become apathetic, maybe, but I still am pro-Trump. I'll never turn on him, because what he has done has been so far way better than anything Hillary Clinton ever could have done. And, Alex says the same thing. So anybody telling you that I've turned on Donald Trump is, of course, a complete liar.
Well, I put a joke video out saying impeach Trump, and people are like saying it's serious. In the first minute, I say, I guess let's impeach him because he did all these great things. All right, let's go to the phone calls here. Let's go ahead and talk to Connor in New York. Thanks for holding. You're on the air.
Hey, Alex, how you doing? I'm a first-time caller. I first want to offer you an apology. I was never a fan of yours when I was growing up. I grew up on Michael Savage. I always bought into the conspiracy theorist line. But over the last year and a half, I've kind of woken up to that next level. I'm full bore on, listening to you every day. You're the man, so thank you. I'm a little nervous. Hi to Mike, too. My point is, I think Trump left a little bit of a hint for us during the campaign. If you listen to his exit music for every rally, it was "You Can't Always Get What You Want" by the Rolling Stones. And so everyone's in the midst of freaking out. They're like, oh, my God, he's not doing exactly what
But you get what you need.
Exactly.
And
which is a country again. Exactly. Trump's not perfect, but you know what? America's going to run this now.
Yeah, power to the people.
Yeah.
And so now they're mad that he's kind of, they're saying he's cozying up with China. Look at what he did to Mark Rubio. Look at what he did to these other people. He told Rand Paul he had a horrible haircut during the primary. He called Marco Little Marco. And then once he got on top and won the primary, oh, Marco's a great guy, Rand Paul, we're going to go golf, we're going to work together on stuff. So, yeah, he talked hard about China, and he's still going to be tough on China when he needs to. But, he establishes his dominance. That's his psychology. He gets the dominance over the other people and then brings them in a somewhat softer manner. And so if he's got to work with the Chinese a little bit on North Korea, so be it.
Well, yeah, you have to be in the room. Yeah, that's exactly right, which is you have to be in the room, and it's frustrating when people say, well, why is he working with the Chinese? Well, because you have to be in the room. As much as I loathe Obama and maybe Hillary Clinton, if they had said, hey, we need a panel on people to talk about free speech, I would go in that room, even though I didn't like these people, because if you're not in the room, you have no influence.
Well, they were incredibly lazy, too. Look how much he's working, but here's the deal. China's the second biggest economy in the world, maybe the first. China, he got China to raise their currency, and ours has gone almost up too high. And people go, oh, he's flip-flopping now that he doesn't want them to raise their currency. They did it. We won. So they're calling him having big wins. They're calling wins flip-flops. And then, I'm sorry, but Spicer, is a smart guy, I'm sure. But when he got asked about these economic things Trump did, he went, I defer to Trump. I don't understand all that. Yellen's doing what he says now. The Chinese are doing what he says now. It's totally different.
Yeah.
So those aren't flip-flops. That's him coming with a hard negotiating stance, and then he gets part of what he wants.
Yeah, that's the same way that you and I are pushing back against the ground war in Syria. It doesn't mean that we flip-flopped. It doesn't mean that we oppose Trump. We're just saying, hey, there's a negotiation going on, too, even between us and the President of the United States. If he's pushing too far, we're going to push back. That is the way adults behave, but the fake news media tries to infantilize people and make
They train you to be babies, that if somebody doesn't do what you want the first time, or the media misrepresents it, you just go, and throw away your whole future and leave the sandbox. Take your toys and go away. Well, by leaving the sandbox, folks, you're not in the game.
Right, exactly. You're going to take blows. And the media, they're even trying to do that with Bannon by drumming up a lot of drama and over-exaggerating and everything. As they want to get Bannon fired up and Trump fired up to divide them. But the reality is, for everybody listening, in real life, you got to be in the room with people you don't agree with. You got to push, but people are going to push back, and you find some kind of reconciliation. That's called being in a democracy, and it's called living in a big world.
That's right. what do you, and we're going to go back to calls. Thank you, Connor. Great points. What do you think, just briefly, of Jared Kushner? Because I don't want to just sit there and demonize the guy, but they say he's basically taken over a lot of foreign policy. They're setting him up to be the next president. He's 35 years old. Hey, that's fine. But he was given his newspaper by his dad. He was given he's failing at this building he's got. And again, I'm not trying to alienate him, but I'm not here kissing the president's butt either. If this guy was a big winner and not just a pretty boy, then I wouldn't have an issue. And he's a Democrat. And so I get the fact that it's obviously the National Security Council that's trying to manipulate Trump. That's now been confirmed. Our sources are right, as high as they go, at least in my case. I don't know some of your sources, but they're obviously excellent. So I'm not going to war with Kushner. I don't want to. It's just the stuff I heard about him in the campaign, that he's easily influenced. He goes and meets with the head of Google and others. Where is Kushner calling for them to get off the backs of the Republican, conservative, libertarian, nationalistic media that put Trump in? Can't Trump see he's having his base cut away?
Right. So there's 3 teams, and we may have talked about this a couple weeks ago before the media even knew about this kind of infighting.
Again, we talked about all the infighting months ago.
Yeah, exactly. So again, like, they're catching up to us. Wow. Welcome to,
and again, they're mirroring exactly what Roger Stone and I and others said, because we really have the sources.
Right. So there are 3 teams.
I knew about Flynn and the turkey deal.
Yep.
When he was first just involved in the campaign. I knew all about it. The news just started reporting it a month ago.
Right, exactly. So the thing is, there are 3 teams. Team 1 are the real patriots. Don Jr., Stephen Miller, Steve Bannon, Kellyanne Conway. Those are the people in the White House who really, really believe in America and love America. Team 2 are the saboteurs. Paul Ryan, Reince Priebus, and to a large degree, Sean Spicer. Sean Spicer was brought in by Reince Priebus. Sean Spicer shouldn't have had the job. I probably shouldn't be attacking the press secretary, but you know what? As a journalist, it's my job.
Oh, he should have just said, Trump's following through on his promises. Read the details of the executive orders or where he stands on currency. He didn't even know. That'd be the first question. They did what they raised their currency. They're starting to capitulate on trade deals. Trump's hit them with a bunch of executive orders and stuff they didn't do. So carrot and stick. He hit him with a carrot and a stick. He's winning. Spicer took a win and turned it into a loss. Sorry.
Exactly. And that is, in my opinion,
because his head's not in the game. It's
deliberate sabotage. Team 3 is Ivanka and Kushner. They are very social. And what the GOP elite and the globalists have learned is, hey, where's the hit pieces on Jared Kushner? Hey, let's soften him up. Let's get his ear. Let's influence him. Let's influence Ivanka. That is why the media has actually quit. They quit attacking Ivanka like they used to, because they realize now they're the people that can be influenced. So Kushner and Ivanka, they want what's best for President Trump, but they're being lied to and manipulated and being used by the globalists. So Kushner is not a saboteur. He's not what I consider a bad guy, but Kushner is being manipulated by these globalist forces. So
I'm not saying he's an idiot, but from their perspective, he's a useful idiot.
That's how they're using
and it just hit me. Our heads are in the game. Anybody that wants to study geopolitics, the world, this is all out there. The reason we give out all this info that turns out to be right, it's already there. It's just that media, mainstream, only goes with big themes and whatever they're told to push. So they're always busy pushing the last piece of garbage while we're here looking at Congress, looking at statements, talking to experts, looking at factoids. We know the real agenda that they don't want you looking at. It's all there, because if you ever start looking at the big agenda, you'll be better than us in understanding where it's going. Once you take the blinders off in their little virtual reality, you go, whoa, what's that? It's the Grand Canyon. Once you're seeing it for yourself, you're like, oh, you didn't like just imagine all this and it came true. You didn't have blinders on. That's all it is. Our head's in the game, folks. That's all it is.
Well, we live for this, and I'm going to tell you a story that might seem small, but it blew my mind. So you were at the RNC. You know where I saw you? I saw you at every protest. I saw you with the people. I saw you attacked, actually, by Black Lives Matter. I watched when they assaulted you as you had your megaphone. You know where the fake news media was? Inside the air conditioning. That is what they do. I went to the DNC, the Democratic National Committee. I marched with the protesters from City Hall in Philadelphia, Franklin Delano Park. I walked 10 miles all day covering all the protests, 100-degree heat, right? I lost 5 pounds in water weight. I didn't see anybody from a mainstream outlet. ABC wasn't there.
They're
NBC,
nowhere.
Yeah, they're inside talking to their
grab our
masters.
clips, cut them up, and use that as their crew.
Exactly.
Just like CNN doesn't even have reporters in the field anymore. They do it all with just photos taken by local people, and they stand behind a green screen.
Exactly. I saw InfoWars was at every protest. You had coverage there. What they do is they want to sit inside and drink hot chocolate in the air conditioning with all the fancy people and clean glasses. But that is
that's not the game.
That's not journalism.
Exactly. The fun and excitement is in the street.
Yeah, I love it when I go out and I saw somebody actually, they were lighting a flag on fire. A person stepped on it. They got started on fire.
That was Joe Biggs, one of our reporters.
So these are the kind of things that we see all the time every day. And that's what a lot of people realize is that the fake news media, they don't do journalism. They sit around and they wait to get an email. And this
exactly. People keep asking how we break so much and how you and others and Drudge and everybody does, because we're actually in the real world.
Right.
We don't come out here and say we have all the answers or this is how it is or that's how it is. The media always acts like they know exactly what's going on. I'll get up here for a week and say, what do you think's going on, audience?
Yeah, and our network of sources is so big, too, and that's what people don't realize is, do you know how many military people read Alex Jones and how many military people read me? We have everybody from, you know, privates to basic training to generals who are passionate about this stuff. And
that's because they know it's an info war is going on.
Exactly. And we're not afraid to work hard. We're passionate. People say, oh, my God, Alex Jones is this. Yeah, we're hyped. We're excited. Sorry, we love what we do, and we love to hit it hard, and we love to be first. The fake news, they're dead. They're lifeless. When you look
exactly, and if you're going to go up against these criminals that are going to try to destroy you, you better have some energy.
You better be hyped.
You're in a fight, folks. This is a fight. I'm going to go back to the calls. And again, this more and more, this is not about us talking about ourselves. We have to say who we are, right, because 1,000 publications a week literally say what we aren't. Exactly. So I have to stand up next to the body snatcher that the MSM is saying, this is Alex Jones, or this is Mike Cernovich, or this is Matt Drudge, or this is Michael Savage, or this is whoever standing up. I have to and say, no, this is who I am. This is what I said. But again, they're so scared. Let's go to Janet, and then we're going to go to Motto and Anthony and Arena and Craig's. So I'm going to try to move quicker now. Janet in Missouri, you're on the air with Mike Cernovich. Go ahead.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Good, thanks for calling.
Well, first I want to say I'm a Democrat and a liberal. I didn't vote for Trump, but this isn't going to be one of those calls. With the whole situation with North Korea and the bombing Syria, I see, you know, a lot of people claiming they're, you know, liberals on quote unquote my side or whatever, saying, you know, that it's terrible and we shouldn't do it, we shouldn't get involved. Well, with the North Korea situation, you know, I'm inclined to agree, but at the same time, he's saying he's going to nuke us.
Exactly. That's a great point, because I don't want to be militaristic. The global challenges have been set up for the president. If he doesn't act strong, things are going to get out of control. I agree you can go too far with North Korea. But they're firing missiles at Japan. They're threatening to attack our fleets. China's sick of it. And so now the word is China may strike. So this is a very dangerous time. But I mean, I hear you. I mean, what do you think? What do you think, Mike? What do you think, Janet?
Yeah, there's a lot of people concerned with North Korea, and a friend of mine who has a lot of good sources said it's a pretty big deal. My sources, I haven't heard anything big on North Korea.
Our military sources say if Kim Jong-un makes one wrong move, or I mean, the Chinese are looking if he fires that missile to hit them themselves.
Well, and that is why, you know, Trump met with China, and that's what a lot of people got to realize is people need to be big picture thinkers, which is you let up on trade a little bit with China.
China has 3,000 years of war with Korea.
Right, exactly. Well, that's the thing a lot of people don't understand, too, about politics. Is, yeah, people think, oh, they're all Asians over there or whatever. This is a very bigoted, stereotypical view that the fake news has. They're actually very nationalistic. A Korean is a Korean. A Chinese, they say, I'm Chinese.
The Chinese and Japanese absolutely hate each other.
Yeah, the rape of Nanking. There's all this ethnic genocide that has happened.
They've all had wars.
Right, exactly. So China will go to war with Korea, no problem, if it's in their best interest to do it.
And like the military intel guy, I could tell he was an intel right down there at the Special Operations Command. They all know the score. The CFR and the globalists sold us out to Korea, North Korea. They gave them all the weapons and the rest of this so that they could have their little, you know, diplomatic manipulation behind the scenes between China and the U.S. so that this group of bureaucrats and politicians behind the scenes could manipulate through their sources and dictate to China and Japan. And that's just done. And Trump said, let's just end this. No more. Japan's really pissed. Let's just, you tell him stop it or he's dead. And China said, okay, we'll kill him.
Right.
Just you stand down, we're going to nuke him.
Yeah.
And here's the deal. I mean, China is ready. They are ready to take out North Korea right now.
And especially if it's leveraged with Trump. If we get what we want from North Korea, then we got to give and we got to take. And again, that is what people got to see about.
Plus, they raised their currency anyway, so we had our cake and ate it too.
Right. Exactly.
And then the bots are like, oh, you're selling out. He didn't stop the currency manipulation. They did what we wanted. I love how they transmute winning into losing.
Well, that's what they're always going to do. And, you know, bigger picture is why is Sean Spicer not aggressive? Why is Trump's media team not aggressive? What would happen to Trump if you didn't exist, if a few other people didn't exist? Trump has a media team. Why isn't this message getting out? What the heck are they doing there?
Well, they're totally ignoring him. They sabotage him. He's figured that out. They just ignore what he says and do whatever they want because they come out of the swamp. But then no one knows how to run the swamp at the swamp. It's literally insane.
Yeah, so the media team, there's been deliberate sabotage within the media team, within messaging. A lot of what appears to be incompetence is actually underhand and sabotage occurring in the media team. It's unbelievable.
It is. Janet, thank you so much. Hey, we're not Democrats or Republicans. We just know Trump wants to actually be the president of America. Doesn't mean he's perfect, but this is like we're getting our hands back on the wheel. And it might be a little bumpy for a while, and if Trump goes sideways, I'll come out against him. But right now, he's a light years better than Hillary. We're going right to Mato. Stay there. We're going to come right back to you. Then we're going to go to Anthony and others straight ahead. Mike Cernovich is in studio. I'm Alex Jones. It makes the controlled corporate press so angry when the Trump sons or Trump is tweeting Infowars.com or Mike Cernovich work. But he'll tweet your work, too. That's why they don't want you to be able to talk to him in the Twitter feed. The top 100 tweets are only negative. This is how they're gaming the system, but it isn't working. That's why it's more important than ever to spread the links from Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. We have to make it about us because we are the focal point. They're trying to shut us down as the beta test. We're running an Easter special through Monday that is up to 30% off, well, 40% off on the Pro Pure water filtration Nomad system, gravity-fed, stainless steel, great for on the road, great for in your home. It's simply amazing. You can sign up for auto ship on top of all these discounts and get an additional 10% off on things like organic coffee or Brain Force or X2. So that's a great way to save money and not forget about it. Because I'll run out of, say, something like Knockout when I'm having trouble going to sleep because I'm all wound up. It's got like 10 different things that are known to help you sleep that are all natural, but for the price of what a bottle of melatonin is. It has the melatonin at the same dose, then it's got the L-tryptophan, and it's got all the other great stuff in it. That's the kind of products we come up with, something that's got 10 ingredients for the price of one at the same strength. But then I've got a warehouse full of it here, so I forget that I run out of it. And I think, well, think about folks out there at their houses. They get a bottle, it works great, they forget, they're busy. Sign up every month or every 60 days or every 90 days and get 10% off. Additionally, you can cancel anytime. Auto ship, InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com. And we've got 30% off Brain Force, 25% off Super Male, 25% off X2, even though that's selling out. Secret 12, the Vitamin Mineral Fusion, and more at InfoWarsStore.com. And look, Cernovich, you just saw, we're building a whole new studio here. Yeah. We're hiring more people. We are just moving forward to really get in their face. I want to launch more broadcasts, more shows. I mean, we're going to go all out.
Yeah, I didn't realize this operation was so huge, and it's again why people have to support you, because this isn't like CNN. You're not getting Mercedes-Benz advertising money. If the readers don't support you and defend truth, then the truth won't get out there.
And it's simple. They buy the good products, we expand.
Exactly.
There's not a jet, there's not a mansion. There is a pool. My kids like the pool. But that's not what I worship. I want to defeat them. I'm in a war. I'm totally committed. I have dreams about it. It's all I want is to stop these people.
Right. That's what.
And you are the power of InfoWars. That's what we're kind of going off on this today, because we're under attack. What are we supposed to do?
Right. I wish that I didn't have to do news. I wish I didn't have to do journalism. I could just hang out with my kids, that I didn't wake up and I didn't have people saying, okay, you're now called a Russian propaganda agent. You're called a spy. You're called a...
Which is an insult. Think about Maxine Waters got up and said, Putin's telling him on the phone, this is a quote, what to say, drain the swamp, crooked Hillary. That came from Putin. That's how he gets these out, as if Donald Trump couldn't come up with that. Right. I mean, it's this insult. Like, I'm not saying Russians are stupid, but like Russians are telling me what to do?
Yeah.
Or Assad?
Right, exactly. And the connections now they're making are so tenuous, where if you ever went to a Korean spa or something, or some kind of Turkish bath, then suddenly you're a spy. And that's why you notice none of these stories actually connect any real dots. They'll say, oh, he met with Russian people. Well, no kidding. Russians are everywhere. Russians live in America.
We got a Russian American right here. Is she evil?
Right. The hotel clerk that I checked in at the hotel, she was Russian. When I was in D.C., I was at a sauna. Oh, my God, 2 Russians in there. Oh, what is going on? And it hit me
in D.C. I promise we're going to 1-minute break. I'm going to right back to your calls. But I was in D.C., and they were like, Russian women trying to talk to me, Russian men. It's D.C. Right. And I caught myself looking for cameras, and I wouldn't even talk to them. And then later I went, I ought to just fly to Russia. I ought to go do Russian TV. I ought to go the other direction instead of the intimidation. And just, you know what? I mean, because it gets to the point where, like, you know, I'm talking to a Russian. Am I even allowed to do this?
Right.
It's like, what
No,
the
I was
hell?
nervous. I was in the sauna, and there were 2 Russian girls in there, and I thought, I wonder if this is some kind of spy thing or something going on. And then I had the same realization. I said, I'm just going to go to St. Petersburg and take a selfie there and, you know, flip people off or something.
I mean, yeah, it's crazy. We'll be back in 70 seconds, third hour. We got great other guest joining us. We're going to co-host. All right, let me go to your calls. You've been good folks here. Anthony in Florida, you're on the air with Mike Cernovich and Alex Jones. Gavin McInnes will be co-hosting on this coming up in the next segment. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Welcome. Thank you for holding.
Yes. I'd like to say on the Syria thing, I think it was a brilliant strategic move on his part to launch those strikes with the Chinese communist leader there, is to show that he means business. And I also think that I have a strong suspicion that there is a point, as it refers to Syria, there's a point he won't go beyond, because he could have easily bombed Assad's house or whatever and killed some of his family. But I think he knows where to draw the line.
No, I agree. I don't like to be Machiavellian or double-minded, but I can see how that all worked out. They didn't give up the chemicals like they said they would. They didn't use them. It was obviously a false flag. So they were going to say Trump hadn't done anything, she's with Russia and Syria. Instead, he said, okay, yeah, I blew up this empty depot, and then they all have to grovel.
Well, I mean, he had to do that. It was Scott Adams, actually, who was a brilliant commentator and said that too, which is Scott Adams, you, me, anybody who's intelligent knows that Assad would not have gassed his own people when he had the strategic advantage. But if everybody's in this collective zombie mind control thing, then you still have to react to the lie, even though you know it's a lie. So what you do is you tell Russia and Assad, you say, look, I know that this is a setup by the fake news media. What are you going to do? I have to bomb this airfield.
And then I even knew before I even talked to the White House, because I know how Trump's brain works now, you didn't get the chemicals out there at that base. I'm going to go ahead and hit that, get them out so they don't go everywhere. And then, you know, we'll all move forward.
Exactly. So that's what a lot of people don't realize is Trump knows that Assad didn't gas his own people. But if everybody is such in a zombie mind that they believe it, then you have to just say, okay, this is the world we live in. It's not the perfect world.
And the communist Chinese have been absolutely horrible. They do terrible things. Their country's out of control. Their president, who is a dictator, he's put in by the Politburo, is more pragmatic. The Chinese are very pragmatic, especially at this point. And Trump's very pragmatic, just deal. All your business is with us. We just got to have an economy for you to even deal with us. Just stop grabbing everything. Stop being out of control. You know, our elite that's giving you all the power, that's over. But let's now have a double-way street here, two-way street. And North Korea's got to stop. And China has come out and said, absolutely, they got to stop. So we're going to see what happens. Very critical time, though, Anthony, in the next 24 hours. Because it's already, like 1 a.m. In North Korea. And they're saying sometime today they plan to shoot missiles again at Japan and detonate a nuclear weapon. And Trump may respond. Cernovich, what do you think is going to happen?
The China thing, I'm not sure. The Chinese are very practical people. And like you said, it's just a negotiation. They got a little too greedy. They realized they were a little bit too greedy. And Trump said, we're not going to let you take it. Just like anything else. You sell great products for your audience, right? At a fair price, great quality stuff. That is the fundamental basis for geopolitical affairs, too. China, they do good things. They do some, you know, sometimes they go a little bit too far. So Trump is saying, hey, we need to have more of a fair price. It's more of an adult relationship. And Obama, of course, just let them do whatever they want to do. So whatever China does is going to be intelligent, strategic, and it will be in America's best interests.
We got Shadow Warrior, who's an Army vet for 35 years, China, North Korea. I promise I'll go to you. I'm bad. I get these great callers, make them hold for an hour. From now on, John Harmon, when somebody holds an hour, they get a free T-shirt or a free bottle of X2 or Rainforest. Like something's like a $30 value, $20 value. From now on, when the caller holds to 1 hour, John, they get something free, all right? Awesome. I know this gives you a bunch of work to do, but I just am horrible about it. But there's breaks, and we'll have to talk about it, we'll have to cover. We got a bunch of clips coming up. Gavin McInnes, we're going to get to Shadow Warrior. Oh, my gosh, Motto, he's been holding forever.
Yeah, he came back. Good.
Oh, he came back. Okay, he's first, then Shadow Warrior. So I'm going to get McInnes on, and then I promise the next segment I'm going to go to everybody's calls. You punch me in the arm if I don't.
Gotcha.
That's why I want to get a bunch of other talk show hosts, launch other shows. If GCN wants to work with me, I'll probably do it with them as well, but my old syndicator. But I want to put on a bunch of other shows for different talent, different flair. Because I love hearing the other hosts on air that, to me, are more listenable. And why everybody listens to me, I don't know. Half the time, I can't listen to myself. And I don't say that as self-deprecating. I mean it. So I look forward to getting the best brains on air with a network that'll work with GCN here in the next few months to probably put 12, 14 hours of live broadcast out. And I haven't said this yet, but we've already got a bunch of TV stations that are actually already picking this show up right now. So we're getting ready to go to the next level. Stay with us. You know, we've got at least 250 plus affiliates, and about 12 of them, last time I checked, are 50,000 watters. So that's exciting. It's a lot more than 50,000 unstoppable watts. No, I was just telling them earlier, though, I never had voice lessons or anything, so I used to go to these rallies and yell and scream, and then I got this fried voice, and everybody's like, oh, you're trying to sound like you have a deep voice. Now it's getting so bad that it's just going out. I probably won't have a voice in a couple of years. So it'll be like the Toadmaster, roll him forward. I mean, this is how I sound now. Look at Tsar Nicholas, or what was Edward VIII's father's name? Gavin McGinnis. You don't think he has the women chasing him around, do you? Like, I'm not gay, Gavin, but watching you get yourself all primped and clean, I think I might actually be. You're pretty handsome looking dude over there.
Yeah, I like every part of being gay except the sex. It all sounds fun. Hanging out with guys, you get to do what you want. You never get nagged. It's just the gross parts that happen, I guess. Well, actually, they do the sex quite a bit, don't they?
Oh, my God. Getting serious, though, you know, we got a lot of calls to take. I hope you're happy to take a few just so they've been holding. Then we're going to get into everything else. But just looking at everything that's going on in the world today, Gavin, you've always got piercing intellect over there with the founder of Vice magazine, big syndicated TV radio host in his own right. What do you make of what's happening in the world as we speak?
Tomorrow, I think, is going to be a huge day. We know that April 15th is a big day with Kim Jong-un. It's his birthday. Everything happens around
By the way, I think he's
15th.
hot. I think he's hot, too.
Oh, Patriots Day, too. We should talk to Gavin about Patriots.
Sure. I'm sorry, Gavin.
Berkeley, too. Wow.
Yeah.
Big thing. Tomorrow's going to be fire.
Oh, sorry. Am I not supposed to talk right now?
Yeah, we're being rude. We apologize.
Okay.
Namaste.
So North Korea is going to be big. They've got the American. He's calling in all his guys. There's really strange behavior going on. I think there might even be a nuclear strike tomorrow to Seoul or Tokyo. And you know what happens when he tries that? We're just going to make him explode. And then also in Berkeley, Lawrence Southern and a bunch of people are going down there to do a thing called Patriots Day. Nothing controversial, just people that like Trump wanting to say they love free speech in America. And all these rodents, these Antifa kids, they were just spotted at Home Depot buying wooden flagpoles because they want to extinguish all these people. But they're going to meet up with bikers, Oath Keepers. All these guys are there waiting for them. It's going to be a riot.
Wow, I forgot about that. We should have a crew there. I was going to send a crew to Ann Coulter, but I forgot about this. This is going to be pretty explosive with these little bullies.
Oh, no, it's going to, I had to choose between this or being and covering that. And, you know, what a great life to have to make that choice. But right. I almost went to Berkeley.
Wow.
But isn't it funny how mad these kids are? Like, I could understand if you had some crazy eugenics theories about genocide and you wanted to, you know, kill all these babies, or you had some horrible, threatening agenda. But it's just basically a July 4th party, and they want to shut it down.
What do you predict is going to happen?
I predict they're going to get overwhelmed. These kids, I don't know why they chose violence as their new language, because they're all rich kids. They're sons of professors. Some of them are brainwashed losers with no parental guidance. And those two weak forces are going out there, and you can tell when you see them in a fight. They've never been there in a fight before. And another funny thing they do is they put women in the front lines because these feminists have brainwashed themselves into thinking they can take any guy. So they just get plowed. They get beaten. I mean, they're like ISIS, the way they use women as human shields.
You know, I agree, because I saw that in D.C. for the inauguration. Women would run over and start attacking me. And finally I said, okay. And I would just start ramming them down. Then they'd scream, I'm hitting a woman. I'm like, lady, you're hitting me. I'm trying to go in the entrance. I would just forget it. You got attacked there as well. You got attacked at your own event. But I've seen all these videos, like you mentioned, coming out. Well, you've done it yourself, where now we're just beating the hell out of these people.
I know, and you feel bad. At NYU, we had a guy we call Friar Tuck. He's our biggest member of the Proud Boys, and he's just plowing people, and he's begging them to stop because he was a bouncer his whole life. He just murders people for fun, and he was going, what is the matter with you guys? It's bizarre.
And then I love how they'll hit you and then bitch when you punch them back.
Or they run to the police, actually. That's
You've
what
seen how they punch. They swing like this, like, I'm liberal. You're like, bam.
Well, I like how they hide behind the police. That's the best. They're all cop haters. They're Black Lives Matter. They hate the police. But then I saw when Gavin actually punched this guy. I don't know if you guys have that footage loaded, but there was a guy in New York. I think it was NYU, maybe the deployable, but he goes, go get Gavin. So Gavin goes, well, I'm right here. And he punches a guy, and they tried to get the police after Gavin. I couldn't believe it.
Let me ask you this, though.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Gavin.
Well, they're so confident that we are the straw man of the Nazis or whatever the hell we are. So we're Hitler. So if you're going to kill Hitler, you feel confident about it. I mean, people talk about time traveling and killing a baby. It's the only murder that's totally acceptable. So now that we're all Hitler, Trump, everyone, 50% of the country's Hitler, they'll just be on their phone going, yeah, he's right here in front of me. Let's get him. Okay, well, why don't you... And you go, I'm not going to sit here and watch you plan my attack.
It's crazy. Hey, you just had a movie come out. Tell folks about that.
It's not quite out yet. I'm doing a movie of my book, The Death of Cool. We just had to shoot some pickups recently, but we've done a little mini movie for every chapter in the book, and it's a fun time.
No, but what's the movie? I wanted to go see it, but having a time where you're gonna know you're gonna die now. Is you're gonna be a tough guy or whatever, or act like a man's supposed to. You're gonna show your son how you're supposed to act.
That's How to Be a Man. And that's available on iTunes. I think it just left Netflix, but that's a video where I think I have breast cancer. So I want to record all these lessons for my unborn son. And we got up to all kinds of shenanigans.
But I like how you're actually doing that in the real world. So the movie's kind of a gonzo type deal, playing yourself.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, when you think about previous generations, you'd be lucky if you had, oh, this is a letter my grandfather wrote to the newspaper, and it's this coveted thing that, you frame. And now, I don't think our kids would ever be able to read all the stuff we wrote and all the videos we made and all the content. It's like, you don't have to die. You can just bring Dad back from the grave every time you press play.
That's kind of a cool point. Ray Kurzweil believes from just letters and some of his dad's stuff he'll be able to bring him back with AI computers. That really isn't possible. But if you have tens of thousands of hours of a Gavin McInnes or a Mike Cernovich or whoever, of a Donald Trump, you kind of could bring them back with AI in a way, couldn't you?
Yeah, especially with search features, like say it's abortion or North Korea or whatever. You go, wonder what my dad felt about this. Bloop, bloop, bloop. There's the video.
Here's 200 hours of North Korea.
Especially Mike, he's recording periscopes 3 times a day. You see the guy making tea and feeding his baby and telling the world what's going to happen tomorrow, and it's always right.
Yeah, what do you make of that? Because I don't want to talk about ourselves. I'm going to skip this break so we have more time. Pull up what you were talking about. It's in The Economist, ABC News. I want to make it about myself, but people are like almost family calls and goes, how are you handling it? Are you really working for Assad? I mean, I've never been to the Middle East. Assad, all I said was, I don't like Assad. I don't like al-Qaeda. Our government started the war. Yeah, there it is. And their main Twitter feed, the conspiracy that the chemical weapons attack in Syria was a hoax. And they go on to say these un-American traitors, these useful idiots. And so I don't know how I'm not supposed to talk about myself. Right. So like you're watching this from and they attack you plenty, Gavin, as well, and try to beat you up and kill you. What is going on when we're all Russian agents? I support Trump. I get the missile attack made him look strong. I'm just saying I don't believe the chemical attack was Assad because they've caught the rebels doing it before and they don't have any proof he did it. I'm not even attacking Trump. In fact, in a Machiavellian way, I'm saying, okay, you blew up an empty airfield and shut them up about how you're a Russian agent. I kind of sickly support it. I've admitted that. Kind of becoming like Machiavelli, because now we've got a guy in there doing their own tricks against them. But I'm just saying, how do we know Assad did it? And now in newspapers everywhere, I am an Assad agent. We're together in a. Look at us. We got Gavin. Are you getting orders from Assad?
Yeah, I was just talking to him on the phone right now. He's actually here via Skype on the other TV. But my thing with that is, I go, I don't care. I don't care if it was actors. I don't care if they just had kids go like that. The big picture is that the world saw a bad thing, so the big man has to go boom on the bad thing. And now women respect him. Here in America, they go, oh, the patriarchy's back. Because we know feminists deep down want the patriarchy. Obama's legacy is obliterated because he said he would draw a line in the sand and he got cucked. So that's awesome. He's killed, as you say, the Russian theory. I think the neocons even are getting too much hubris, too confident. They're going to be wiped out. And the biggest picture is, these terrorists are absolute animals. They dismember our soldiers. They tear out beating hearts and eat them. They sell fingers in the market there as war trophies. There's literally a market for body parts, just as accoutrements. So we don't negotiate with them. We don't send them democracy. We just scare them with huge fireworks.
That was very well said. I love the Moab because not only is this a big message that, hey, we got the big guns on the eve of this North Korea thing, that was a warren of a bunch of them that they killed, who killed special forces going in just to get intel on them. We're running them out of Syria and Iraq, like you said, cleaning up Obama's mess.
Yeah.
They dropped this 20-something thousand pound bomb and it kills them all. I mean, that's it finally. And then they say, oh, he wants a military dictatorship. He says, I've given them total authorization. The difference is to carry out his constitutional orders. This micromanaging, call Obama, see, and he would never answer the phone. Sir, we have bin Laden in the sights. We can't kill him. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is crazy. Gavin, what do you make of that?
I think we've crippled our guys over there. I was talking to Terry Shepard recently, and I said, how do we win this war? And he goes, let us do our job. I mean, right now, they've got RPGs, and they go, we're getting shot at from a mosque. What do we do? And they've got to call up. I talked to one vet who told me, he said, our guy had to pretend he misunderstood in order to save our lives because they were shooting from the mosque, and the guy said, don't shoot the mosque. And he said, what was that? What? Shoot the mosque? Oh, what? And they took out the guys that were trying to kill them. We've got to let our dogs loose on these boys. I want the terrorists to be going, who, let the dogs out? As we just roar through the Middle East. Short, sharp shock, by the way. I don't want a quagmire. I want to just get in and get out and scare the crap out of them.
And Trump doesn't want a quagmire, and that's the problem. I reported this last week. I mean, we have our sources directly to the man. And no, it's not going to happen. No fly zone. We just got to clean out Al-Qaeda and ISIS like I promised, but also be strong. Don't worry. Trust me. And then, boom, days later, he comes out and gives that very speech saying it. But then we learned his own generals, they're not all bad, but McMaster's and others, they do want to take out Assad because McMaster's is getting influenced by John McCain and others. And he said, I want to take out Assad and I want to take out Al-Qaeda. Well, Assad didn't start a war. And I'm not in love with Assad. My point is, we can't be in the job of regime change when they don't attack us, right, Gavin?
Yeah, a long time ago you said, look, I'm supporting Trump, but if he does something wrong, if he starts attacking free speech, we will drag him out of the White House by his heels, was the way you put it. And if we see more Jared Kushner getting in there, turning our administration neocon, more Nikki Haley saying we have to depose Assad, more quagmire crap, then I'm going to drag him out by his heels. But right now, I'm banking on optimism, and I just see it as a giant fireworks display. And then we also have, by the way, Secretary of State is saying our priority is ISIS, not deposing Assad. And Nikki Haley, what is she? She's the UN ambassador. The UN is theatrics. It's just Hollywood. That doesn't have.
And we just cut their funding by 50%. Don't you love Trump cutting their funding?
I love it. The UN is a fifth column. It is an enemy of ours that is in the Western world, but determined to depose all of the Western world. They are bad news.
It's a vestigial globalist dog that doesn't hunt. It's like something really pathetic. Sorry, I want to take a few calls, but jump in here.
The UN, I think, is far nefarious. I think it's how the Saudis do sex trafficking. And if you ask me what the UN was, I would say it's a human trafficking operation. That's really all they're
everywhere they go, that's all they do. That's a great point. Let me ask you that then, Gavin, and Cernovich as well. When we're looking at this, I mean, I used to hear people like David Horowitz read his book 16 years ago, The Left Plans to Merge with the Muslims and Take Over and Sharia law. And I'm like, this is the biggest load of crap I've ever heard. I don't want to live under the Muslim control. Some countries aren't that radical, some are. But I'm like, this is crazy. Now the Democrats putting hijabs on marches. I'm at thousands of women putting hijabs on, Muslim women running, and guys in literal Muslim houses going, ha, 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 country now, eh. And all this craziness. And then they're running over people every week with cars in Stockholm and London and everywhere, and the media won't say it's Muslims. And then, like, we mildly criticize some Muslim, and they got law firms threatening to sue us. And it just seems like, and then all this, why is the left literally in bed with the most monotheistic, cult-like, anti-woman, anti-liberal thing on earth? I mean, I know we talk about this all the time, but the left is so bad. They're so anti-freedom, anti-West, anti-Western chivalrous male that they will roll into the most nasty crap in the world. It's like a huge banquet of food and the highest quality cultures ready for them, and they just throw it in the gutter and then climb into a cesspit, into a sewage pond, and are like rubbing crap all over themselves, Gavin.
Well, I think it's because they hate the family. And why do they hate the family? I don't know. They have daddy issues. Maybe they're weak and they can't bear the idea of having kids and having to propose, and women can't handle that they can create and shape lives. They're overwhelmed by their own magic. They're sentient beings, as Ann Coulter calls them. And men just don't have the balls to stop playing video games and actually put a ring on it. And so they've created this world where everything about them is anti-family. More trans, more gay weddings. We have to all
because they don't have it. They're against it.
Can't vote.
Because they don't have it, they're against it, right, Gavin?
Right, and they see these Muslims and they go, well, they are racist, homophobic, prejudiced extremists who want to obliterate the West, but in that obliteration, the family will get destroyed, so I'm going to have Linda Sarsour run the Women's March and I'll put a hijab on my head.
Well, also, and I don't want to get too sort of, you know, family friendly, but a lot of feminists do have very dark desires. 50 Shades of Grey sold a lot of copies, and you know, so there might be a little bit. Maybe they like that dominant component of Islam, and maybe feminism. They've
suppressed it, and we kiss their ass. Don't respect us, but the pure dirtiness of it, they get off on, like the slave brothel and the because and a lot of them they want to have women in that position, so they want to be managers in Islam over the other slave women.
Right, exactly. So they're so repressed now that there's a counter reaction. They would say, well, I would rather be dominated by these people rather than deal with these beta males.
And Gavin, that's a smart point. You make that point similarly. Everybody really wants the strong alpha male figure. The problem is not enough of them. You just pointed that out. It's a shortage. It is our fault. Men are not being men. We caused this. So that there's the paradigm. Then they see Islam and think, oh, that's a daddy.
Exactly. Well, when they call us bitches and they say we're weak and they go, white men need to die, what they're really doing is taunting us. And they're asking for a metaphorical now, not literal. They're asking for a metaphorical slap where you go, psh, don't you dare talk to me like that. And
Sean Connery, sometimes a woman needs
at the club.
Yeah.
Sometimes a woman needs a good smack.
Right. Because Sean Connery, that clip, he goes, sometimes a woman needs a smack, you know, metaphorical. But yeah, we always got to be careful talking gender. Media
I've never
matters.
Smacked a woman. I haven't found that.
Oh my God, this is getting clipped right now. This is getting. I already know right now. This segment is gonna. This is gonna be the
culturally,
segment.
I don't mean literally, but say you put on gangster rap at the club. White women just flood the dance floor, and they'll be saying things I can't say on this show about bitches and what I'm gonna do to them. And the women are just dancing their asses off. They love testosterone, and they're only pretending that they want these beta male allies. They don't have sex with them.
Well, what about Alec Baldwin?
Drier than a feminist man.
Wasn't it Alec Baldwin who went on that rant against his daughter and was screaming at her, and now he bashes Trump and calls Trump a misogynist?
He's like, "You're a worthless pig." He sounds worse than Mel Gibson.
Yeah, but the left gives him a pass. That's the whole thing. Is they'll take that clip that we just gave and they'll try to make a whole story out of it. When Alec Baldwin actually is in my opinion, domestic abuser. The way he talked on the at least emotional abuse.
Yes, and I wasn't defending Sean Connery saying someone was a woman.
No, I know, but I just know how they're going to spin it.
I'm just saying they're wanting to be truly put in slave brothels and smacked around and put on slave blocks.
Yeah, exactly. I know how they're going to. I know how the fake news works now, and
I agree
how they're editing and what they're going to do. So we just got to make sure.
Next Cernovich called for enslaving women.
Right. Exactly. I can just see that now. But yeah, Alec Baldwin is a legitimate emotional abuser of women. And yet he's on Saturday Night Live, big show. There's no advertising boycott.
Well, no, he reportedly smacks him around.
So I want to know, why is Alec Baldwin allowed on Saturday Night Live to bash Trump? Why we get taken out of context and lied about?
It's known Trump has never touched a woman either about.
Yeah, exactly.
Not physically in a mean way.
So Alec Baldwin, the way he talked on that answering machine was just horrific. And yet nobody's trying to advertise him, boycott his advertisers. The left gives him a pass, Gavin. Why do you think that is?
Because it's sports to them. You know, they followed Obama through everything. They followed Clinton through the cigar incident. That's their team, the Dallas Cowboys. But one thing I love about the right, I mean, it's frustrating that we're fractured, but we're also rational and we're here for the truth. So we drag your heels out when you lie to us or when you're a hypocrite or when you do something wrong. They're not in it for truth. That's why every time you ask them for a number, like how many illegals are there or how much do we spend per student per year, they don't have the remotest idea. One woman told me there's 70 billion illegals in America. That was the number she threw out. And you realize, this is all posturing to you.
That's right. People posture intellectually because they have no data. Then they call people that are informed conspiracy theorists. That's how they have their pass to not be informed. Because there's 35 million illegals conservatively. There's 7.5 billion people in the world. There's 335 million in the United States. There's 1.5 billion in China. There's 0.5 in India. They don't know any of this stuff. They don't know the population of Latin America is 689 million. They don't know the population of Mexico is 126 million. I mean, to them, though, that's just, that's conspiracy theory. He's just showing off.
Yeah, they don't understand demographics and migrant flow. They don't know, and actually they don't know that most of the so-called refugees going into Europe are actually not refugees. They went there for the best welfare. Right. This was a big story I broke, which is that
80% of the Muslim men in Europe are on welfare. What the hell?
Yeah, and moreover, when I went to investigate this refugee crisis BS, I found pictures where they told people, don't get fingerprinted in Denmark because they'll make you stay in Denmark. You want to go to Europe and you want to go to Germany and Austria for the big bucks, the welfare. I kid you not. They actually, all admitted. Yeah, so they actually are saying, don't go to Denmark. Well, wait a minute, you're a refugee. I've been to Denmark. I could live in Denmark. But if you're a refugee from a war-torn country, don't go to Denmark because they might make you stay there.
And let's not be mean. It's admitted they have like hundreds of times increased birth defects because they come from inbred villages. We're going to come back with Gavin McInnes. You're going to do
said it was okay to marry your first cousin. He was wrong. Muhammad was wrong. Sorry, guys. You do that 40 generations in a row, and you got a real serious problem on your hand.
Yeah, it's worse than radiation. Exactly. Gavin McInnes is coming up in the next segment. You're doing a 2-hour special. I'll join you. 3 to 5 nightly news. So good to have Mike Cernovich here with us.
Thank you.
Gavin McInnes, folks, you want to check out his website, compoundmedia.com. Whole great network just like this one. Doing great work. People say, well, why are the show that has people on? Because I love the fact that Gavin McInnes is out there and that Mike's more targets. I'm not the only one. We need to, I want to win the culture war. I want to win the culture war. I want to win the culture war. We'll be back. All right, Craig in Oklahoma, I'm going to you. And everybody holding, Craig, everybody else has been holding for like an hour. Whatever they want, just get their email, whatever they want, $30 value, InfoWarsStore.com. I'm sending it to them. It's my new rule to make the callers hold. It's why I don't take calls with you 1 day a week, because I just get rolling. Other talk show hosts behind the scenes, not Gavin and others, but people I know are just like, I want to get off here. This is horrible. There's not enough to cover. I've got like 20 incredible clips, hundreds of stories. They're all insane. And I'm not even going to any of them because just talking about the world's so amazing. But I'll be honest with you, as we go back to Gavin McInnes, I feel guilty. Because I'm so cheerful and happy and not even hyping up. Showdown in North Korea. It's already 1:30 a.m. their time right now in North Korea. They're preparing to test a nuclear weapon and launch missiles at Japan, according to Kim Jong-un's own statements. Trump says if they fire a missile, he'll shoot it down. The North Korea says they'll respond with a nuclear attack on South Korea, Tokyo, Japan, as well as the fleet or armada, as Trump's calling it. And I'm just sitting here calmly going, oh, yeah, hey, yeah, let's go get steaks tonight or whatever. So people think I'm alarmist. I'm being way too calm. We're going back to Gavin McInnes in a moment about this. Speaking of being calm here, they banned us off ad roll. Google's starting to restrict us. The Democrats are openly calling for us to be banned. We had like $3.3 million last year on ad roll. It was money we made to fund the operation. It wasn't profit. It was money we made to then fund this operation. I go out and advertise outside the show to be able to pay for it. And because I've learned they go out for sponsors. Sponsors are fickle, you know, whatever. We have some great sponsors. That's mainly the network. I have my sponsors, and that's you, the American people. And so we're having a Christian, even if you're not Christian, it's politically incorrect to say it, holiday special for Easter of 30 to 40% off water filtration systems, you name it. We've never done 40% off on ProPure gravity-fed systems. Great clean water for your family, your children. Tastes so much better. It actually cuts all the garbage out, the fluoride so much more. That's going to end on Monday. 30% off Brain Force, which we went out and just said, what's the top nootropic out there? Well, let's make it stronger and better and then half price. Because most companies have 7 times markup. We do 100% markup. That should be able to fund us. $20 discounted, 20% more in the bottle. The leading competitor is $60. And it's just not even as good. So there you go. That's why it's such an incredible product and has thousands of reviews out there. So be sure and check it out for yourself. 4.6 review, 3,361 reviews by Power Reviews, third-party site. Look it up for yourself. So it's all there. And listen, Trump's not perfect. You get a Trump is my president shirt. Wear it. It's about political incorrectness, about exercising freedom, meeting like-minded people. I know so many conservative men that are busy working, 2 or 3 jobs and whatever. They're divorced, whatever. They're like, I can't find a good woman or whatever. Or I can't find a good man. You go out and wear a Trump's my president shirt, you will find the like-minded people, or an InfoWars shirt. It's about culture. It's about all of us coming together, not about what color we are, but about freedom and about having shared ideas. So InfoWarsStore.com. We're going to sell out this weekend of the bubblegum flavor, natural flavor, fluoride-free toothpaste. We sold out of the adult. That was our 5th run of it. The biggest firm in the country makes it, and it's amazing. and then we go and private label it with iodine, colloidal silver, but the peppermint was too strong. So the bubblegum flavor doesn't have that. It's about to sell out for children. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or 888-253-3139. Now, Gavin, I want to get into the geopolitical and promise go to Craig here, who's going to get his $30 whatever he wants for holding out this new rule. Just does feel so bad. Talk about compound media. I know I go to a baseball game with my kids or a swim meet or, you know, wherever. And of course, adults watch you too. But it's so exciting that they call me the meme machine. You know, one of the top memes out there. I love being made fun of. You're super popular. That's got to worry the elite. But how does compound media, how do you guys fund yourselves? Because you never come on the air and plug anything. I want to Gavin McInnes book. I want to Gavin McInnes. I want to sell your books. I want to get involved making movies with you. I mean, we need to fund ourselves. We need to be the culture. Hollywood and MSM acts like we're bad if we sell a book or sell a product. Well, what the hell do? They got Prozac ads and, you know, irritable leg syndrome crap that, you know, whatever. So how are you guys funding yourselves?
Well, we're subscription-based here at Compound Media. I also work at The Rebel up in Canada, and that's ads on YouTube. And there's a real crackdown, as you know, on YouTubers and demonetizing them. And it is incredibly frustrating seeing this fake news lies about how Coca-Cola ads are getting stuck on racist videos with the N-word on them. They shouldn't have to do that. And you go, well, that's a myth you're using to justify censorship. But the good news is that they can't keep us down anymore. The infrastructure has shattered, and now everyone has a voice. Anyone can make a show, make a video. They can shut down YouTube. We'll always have these subscription services, and it must be incredibly frustrating for them to not be able to control the narrative. I mean, we saw that with the White House press corps when Trump said he's going to move it to a bigger room and bring in guys like Lucian Wintrich, who's 25 years old, this kid who works at Gateway Pundit. And all of a sudden, Jake Tapper and Chuck Todd don't have the front row seats anymore. And I think that's a metaphor for information in America. All of a sudden, it's available to everyone. And guess what? That's why these millennials are the most red-pilled millennials in 3 generations. They're 15% saying they're conservative, whereas before, my generation and baby boomers, it was like 2 or 3%.
Let's talk about Generation Z.
Got to them.
Generation Z. Millennials are either total cult members or awake. Yep. Generation Z, though, I'm talking like 8-year-old kids everywhere run up to me. I don't know what is going on. What's happening with Generation Z? You know, 8 years old to say 15 years old right now.
Yeah, well, you know, I talked to a kid the other day. I had him on my show. He's 15, and he works near the Coca-Cola factory. I think that's in Idaho. I can't remember. But he said, the students are about half conservative. The parents are like 80% conservative. 100% of the teachers are hyper left-wing and tell us that we can't argue certain comments. I said, well, will you get an F if you write an article on how, an essay on how great Trump is? He goes, no, I wouldn't be allowed to write it. Like, you have to say what the assignment is. You'd never be able to write that. So I just keep saying to these kids, get an F. Write the assignment that you want, do it well, and get an F. These kids, we have to show education that the free market of ideas is more dominant than your hysterical Marxist dogma.
And then call the newspaper when they don't let you publish it. Call the newspaper when they block you. Make an issue out of it.
Email me with the word education in the subject. I am compiling a massive database of all these PowerPoints that go on in class, all the posters in the hallway. It is way more extreme even than liberal colleges. I mean, high schools have giant banners that say, we need more queer families. Why? These kids are 14.
Imagine if a heterosexual walked into a group of 5th graders and said, I'm going to teach you how to have sex. That'd be called a pedophile.
Yeah.
But as long as it's liberal.
Banner said, we need more white families. I mean, there'd be hysterics. There'd be riots in the streets. They have gone so far left that they've fallen off the deep end. And I think it makes it easy to tell kids, look it up. We're not evil. And it's funny when you talk to these guys about how evil we are and we're Nazis and we want to kill everyone. And you listen to them and you go, that sounds scary, these people. They talk about a Trump's America where the disabled are at risk and gays are hiding in their homes scared of being killed. And you go, Jesus, that sounds horrible. I want to help you fight these people. And then you go, what are we even doing in a country that's worse than Venezuela and Cuba and China? I want to go escape. I want to go I want to go to Venezuela where I'll be safe, because the America you're describing sounds like Babylon. It sounds like Sodom and Gomorrah.
I was about to say, I was on CNN this weekend quite a bit, just looking at it. And they had an article about how Venezuela wasn't that bad, and that was America's fault. And then they had another article about we were bad to North Korea. That's why they hate us. And I'm reading it. It's so... And then MIT came out with a children's book and a textbook on how to teach kids to be communist. So instead of the people that invented the internet now are teaching us how to be communists.
You know, you look up the most dangerous place on earth and Caracas jumps up. I mean, I don't even think they have plumbing. They just have sewage dripping down the streets. Same with Port-au-Prince in Haiti. And you go, how blind do you have to be to not know that the West is the best? I remember Bernie Sanders, this is an old clip you can find, but he goes, you know, people always use the waiting in line as a reason that communism doesn't work, but at least they're waiting in line to get food. You know, these other countries, there's no lineups to go because there's no food. And you go, what? You mean like America, where I have to decide between 300 different types of coffee every time I go to the grocery store?
And 100 different iPhone cases.
There's too much freedom in America. Shopping's too hard.
It is crazy when every communist system fails and it's still being propped up. So let me ask you this before we take some calls from Craig in just a moment. Where do you in your crystal ball see this fight going? Because they think they're tripling down with more brainwashing, that somehow that'll fix their system. I think it's accelerating their collapse.
Yeah, they've painted themselves into a corner. They keep choosing stupider and stupider pawns in their chess game. First, they chose trans, and they said, these are our new oppressed, and we're going to use trans. They tried blacks, but blacks didn't get with their pro-gay stuff. So they said, all right, you're out. We're going to go with trans. And you go, a lot of those guys are just mentally ill gays. I'm not sure you want that on your front lines. And then the trans start winning all these women's sports, and they go, oh, that's not working out. We have a female MMA fighter who was a man just pounding the crap out of a woman, and you go, ooh, we're getting a little more violence.
Yeah, so what is that where suddenly all over they are accepting men in female sports when they're men and they're obviously cheating? It's so crazy. That's why I made the joke about the gay stuff at the very beginning. I'm not against anybody. Then they say all the news, I'm this homophobe, and make up all this weird crap because I point out that chemicals in the water are making the amphibians, you know, gay or whatever. Then they turn into I'm anti-gay, or I call the congressman, you know, say you're sucking globalist ding dong or whatever. And I'm sorry, it's a family show. That's what I said at the late night show. Then they say I'm anti-gay. I'm not anti-gay. I meant he's subserving to the New World Order. He's selling us out. It's like this, or you criticize anything the Democrats are doing. You're now anti-Semitic. They don't even say where you're anti-Semitic.
Well, they keep screaming at me, you need to love me more. You need to accept me. You need to bake me a cake for my wedding. And I go, we're not homophobic. We don't care. When I grew up, there was Liberace dancing around with his rings, and we had Paul Lynde going, and it shows me at the YMCA going, I love to go to the YMCA and meet boys and make out with men. And we all went, that's a catchy tune, go ahead. But then they start saying, no, love me. And we go, whoa, whoa, you need to calm down. I don't care what you do.
So it's an act of bullying. So what happens to them is they've made this giant generation of just jellyfish that are all into their pity parties and their grandstanding. What happens to them as the whole reality turns against them?
Well, here's the thing. So they went black, no, didn't work. Trans, no, didn't work. Now they've gone full Muslim. Now the hijab is a symbol of freedom. Next, I guess a burqa is going to become a feminist icon.
No, actually, that's on CNN as the new feminist icon. So I get it. There are 1,500,000,000 Muslims probably estimated, maybe lower. 1.4 billion. So I guess that's their new demographic. That's their new group.
Yeah, look, to thwart daddy, to make us mad, to make us cringe, they crawled into bed with people who hate them. And they've also been building a bubble around themselves where they need safe spaces. And you go, well, you're a human recipe for disaster. You've said, I want to be weaker and weaker and weaker and make myself more vulnerable. And then I want to get into bed with people who hate everything I stand for and want me to die. Good luck with that. Bye.
So how does it shake out? That's what I'm saying. How does it end?
They lose. They come crawling back on their knees to Trump, and they learn to shut up because they don't know what they're talking about. This is like the record industry in the 90s. I mean, the entire liberal hysterical ethos has now spiraled into this crazy Antifa reactionary thing where they attack old ladies with pepper spray for having an American flag. No one takes them seriously anymore. We don't have Title IX crap or any of this legislation that supports their mythical view of America. And they just sort of peter out. They just learn to shut their mouths, and they get back into art and music and fashion and the other things they're good at.
Or they claim they're good at. So that's what it is. It's a bunch of beta losers trying to be dominant because dominants were taught it wasn't going to be dominant, so we stood down, and then all the betas come in.
Yeah, imagine a bunch of 10-year-old girls got into British soccer, into football, and they went down for a row with Man United and went, "Oi, you got a problem? I bloody hate Man U." And they started headbutting soccer hooligans. That wouldn't last for very long, and those little girls would go back home. And that's what we're going to see within the next few years. I mean, these are all just the stages of grief that we're seeing here. Depression, anxiety, a reluctance to admit what's happened, denial. They're just going to acquiesce and slowly realize that the patriarchy's back and the big boys know what they're doing. Sit down.
Well, I hope the big boys know what they're doing. I just hope the public gets involved and engaged for prosperity. Gavin McInnes is our guest, compoundmedia.com. And you say you also are involved with the Rebel Media up in Canada?
Yep. Do regular videos up there and a show, and I have a column at tackymag.com.
Good. Okay, let's talk to Craig in Oklahoma. Been holding a while. Thank you, Craig. You're on the air, see Army vet from 87 on to Trump. What's your view on what's happening geopolitically? Are you worried about North Korea?
He's got it. I mean, what you said about three-dimensional chess, he's playing that and then some. And I'm sure all these leaders that he's messing with over here in Korea and all that know exactly where he stands. He said he would use courier service. Instead of making a phone call so everybody can listen in, he'd use a courier. So they know where he's at, and they know where he's coming from. They know what he's about to do.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he called Assad and said, "Get all your guys out there. I'm about to blow it up."
Yeah, but every time I get the feeling, oh, Trump's gone globalist, I stop and I say, no, that's more of that three-dimensional chess. He's got this. He plays big. He don't play small. He plays on a big scale.
Well, if he was globalist, they wouldn't be attacking him. They are attacking him like he is high noon to vampires, Gavin.
I'm scared of Jared Kushner. He's the only fly in the ointment. And when I found out that George Soros gave him $250 million for a real estate deal, that's the same as saying Jared, he's funded by George Soros.
And I thought Trump liked success. I mean, Kushner's a failure.
Yeah, he's just a little rich kid that plays with daddy's money. And yes, if someone gives you $100 million building in New York City, you're going to sell it for a profit. Trust me.
It's total idiocy. I won't talk about how much money we've brought in to fund this operation, but we did this with our listeners by ourselves. Kushner has done nothing but ruin everything he's touched. I'm not against Kushner. I just don't get why. I guess he's married to daddy's favorite daughter. I mean, that's what it is. So there's the chink in the armor, is that Trump's a softie for his family.
Yeah, well, Coulter said that too. She said the day after he's elected, she said the only thing that could go wrong now is if he hires his sons, because America's not a monarchy. That was Britain. We kicked them out. So we didn't vote for
North Korea.
We voted for you.
North Korea's hereditary dictatorship.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what it is on Sunday. It might just be ashes.
That's my next question, Gavin. Thank you so much, caller. We're going to come back and take more, but what's your gut tell you about this weekend? Pretty big weekend. I can feel it.
My gut tells me that he won't launch nuclear weapons. He's going to chicken out. But I do foresee major missile attacks going on him, showing off, chickening, going right up to nuclear, but not quite. And then America just saying, I warned you.
No, my gut tells me Trump's going to pull the trigger on him.
Pardon?
My gut tells me I agree. Trump's going to pull the trigger.
Yep. Trump's going to slap his wrist like he's been doing all over the Middle East this week.
And notice, Trump's not starting it. Wow, it's a crazy time. Gavin McInnes is our guest. A few more calls on the side of this break. And then we've got, who's hosting the fourth hour today? I see David Knight. Okay, he's got a guest lineup as well. Gavin McInnes is our guest. I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com. Giant special, some of the biggest of the year right now. You know, I never set out 22 years ago to reach at heights 80+ million a week, normally about 45 million. That's conservative. People exaggerate their numbers. 45 million a week, listen, watch, just what we put out, not to mention the websites. I don't say that to brag. It's so you have confidence. This ideology of freedom is the latest thing. They claim America is the old idea and point out our problems. It was never truly realized. But it produced more patents, more inventions, more technology. Look at how we're dominant. We're 300-something million people. We're still the greatest force on earth. Why? A little bit of freedom. Turning you loose. You are the power. I want to take a few calls here in this segment, the next with Gavin McInnes. But, Gavin, I've been asking a lot of the other questions. I want to take a few calls here. But I routinely, a couple days a week at least, go and watch your show or parts of it when I'm on the elliptical or when I'm in the car with my son. He watches it and listens to it. My older daughter likes the show. So I almost hate asking the questions myself because that tends to direct you in other ways. But when you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, is it positive? Is it negative? I mean, what's your gut tell you?
When I wake up at 3 in the morning, I usually have this thing the Irish call the horrors. And I think it's when your liver runs out of water and it's trying to clean your blood.
And it's burning and you want a bunch of water.
So it wakes you up and he goes, dude, I'm either going to have to take water from your brain, and that's a hangover, or you got to get up and get some water. So I get some water, and then the
you don't just keep a big jug of water by the bed and just like dump it down. Just,
well, I'm scared of the kids knocking that over, so I have to walk all the way to the bathroom and grab whatever cup is there. But no, I feel really optimistic, really exciting. Really excited. We've never been this empowered. Before, all the dinosaurs controlled the news. And you watch Cernovich on 60 Minutes, and that's such a perfect example of where we've arrived. They sit there and they go, fake news. You're fake news. And he goes, what? Why? Because I said Hillary's sick? Yeah. And he goes, how do you know she's not sick, Scott Pelley? And he goes, the campaign told us.
And then they don't get how dumb they look, and they put that out.
Why would you listen to the campaign? And then the show goes on to describe horrible fake news sites that we all read, like Denver Guardian and some other one I hadn't heard of, like the National Post Observational something.
And you know who put out, it's worse. 20th Century Fox put out over 100 fake sites to attack Trump, you, me. You know you were in those? They attacked us all with hundreds of fake websites.
Huffington Post in New Zealand just put out an article saying we need to deny white men the right to vote. And you can tell when you look at the author and you read it that it's totally fabricated. And this is just clickbait. Thought catalog.
I agree, but did you know, Gavin, that they put out over 100 websites that were fake attacking everybody?
I did not know that, no.
I didn't even know this. Look, 20th Century Fox gave real apology for fake news campaign. They claimed it was a film promotion that went on for a year in the election, but it attacked you, me, Trump. It was mainly Trump. We were all in there. You didn't see. We're so busy. We don't even know. They're the ones doing it. That's the New York Times, by the way, admitting that.
Well, that's scary because it shows that Rupert Murdoch is a globalist and he wants open borders. I think we had Roger Ailes at Fox News sort of holding him back and saying, I'm going to try to keep this at least a little bit right wing.
There's been a coup now. You're right.
But now that he's gone, I think Fox is going to go full Wall Street Journal and just say, open up the borders, people. We need more others.
Very astute. In fact, I met with some of the executives at that so-called Ritz-Carlton in Cleveland. It was not like a Holiday Express, but for Ritz-Carlton, I'm not bashing. It's just like a crap hole. And I met this Ritz-Carlton, and I was meeting with all these Fox people. They're like, oh, yeah, there's been a coup. You're right, blah, blah, blah. We're going to come back and go to Shadow Warriors, been holding like a patriot. Everybody holding for an hour gets $30 free thing, whatever, so it doesn't matter. I don't feel bad now. We'll be back in 70 seconds. And then David Knight comes in as a fresh horse. Back in 70 seconds with the final segment with Gavin McInnes. We'll be right back. And be sure and visit their website, compoundmedia.com. And don't forget, Infowars.com. They hate it when you spread those links. I know this. I've been to America. Trump's bringing America back. We're bringing America back. Shadow Warrior, a true trooper from North Carolina. You're on the air with Gavin McInnes, Infowars, and the whole shooting match. Go ahead.
Good talking to you, sir. How you doing?
Brother, it's good to talk to you. How are you doing?
Great. I'm glad to see you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and we're all better for it. There's three things I'd like to mention to you, sir, if I could.
Please.
One thing is the Syrian, the government, and North Korea. The Syrian debacle over there was set up by John McCain when he got those illegal chemical things from Saudi Arabia come in there and do a false flag. The Russians knew it, Trump knew it, so they set it up. When it went off, they had to do something about it, so they made that missile strike over there. That's one thing. Second thing, North Korea. The Chinese just launched about 500, 600 jet airplanes going towards the north up there, towards North Korea border. They put all their people up around the border. They've got all 150,000. They went up to 175,000. They're going to put 200,000 troops around the border. Probably something going on tomorrow. The government, Trump, don't discard Trump. The way they used to do it, the old saying goes, how do you catch a fox?
you bait him with another fox. So what he does in his administration is putting in people that a lot of people don't appreciate, but he's weeding out. He's saying who's coming to the surface. And Jared Kushner, he's going to out his own self. John McCain's going to be ousted. He's going to.
No, I get it. He's bringing the enemies in to see who thinks they're. And Trump's smart. No, I mean, look, he's delivering. He's doing everything the globalists hate. My gut tells me he's good, and we're seeing amazing things happen. And you know, we think tomorrow it's going to happen. We're already 3 hours in to North Korea's 15th when they're supposedly going to test all these weapons. So God bless you, Shadow Warrior. Please call back in again. Great point. In closing, Gavin, I mean, I hope nothing happens tomorrow, but Kim Jong-un wants to keep shooting missiles at Japan, threatening everybody. China says they may go in and nuke them first. I think that's the deal. You know, Trump said for weeks, China does something or we do it. Well, I think China said, okay, we'll do it.
Yeah, you know, North Koreans are great people. And they're very tenacious, industrious people. You have to understand the modern generation, they saw their dad go, I love Kim Jong-un, and then they watched their dad starve to death. So the ones that are alive right now have seen what kind of loyalty gets you in that country. And they're also industrious enough to get food and live. I mean, being alive in North Korea right now means you're smart and you know what you're doing and you're tough. So I think—
I agree. I've seen a lot of photos in there. They're good-looking people.
Once they chop the head off this monster, I feel confident that the body can live and thrive. We just need to let North Korea be. It's I don't think it's beyond saving now. But the scary thing is with these re-education camps, the second the first bomb goes off, these people have been told they're gonna be killed. So even if there's not a nuclear option, even if Trump sends in just a few tomahawks, that's going to be a genocide because they're going to kill everyone in those re-education camps, and there's nothing we can do about it. We can't not retaliate. So we're going to see a lot of deaths tomorrow.
A poor North Korea. They're like the Iranians. They've done polls, like 80% of Iranians want out of what they're in.
You know, everyone outside of the West is dying to come to the West, which is why we have an immigration problem, because we're the best.
Gavin McInnes, thank you so much for spending time with us, and I hope you'll join us more soon. Thank you.
I'd love to.
All right, I'll be watching. All right, we're going to come back with David Knight and more. He's got a big broadcast lineup for you the next hour. We got that special 3 to 5. It'll be at Infowars.com with Mike Cernovich and the rest of the crew. I think I'll be joining that as well.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, and you'll hear that Mission Impossible music. I was going to start with some stories about Facebook and what's happening there, because not only are they in big hot water in the UK because of child pornography, child rape videos that they refuse to take down, but of course we've also got the calls from the former FEC member saying that we need to censor political speech. We need to be very careful about who is on Facebook. So they're censoring political speech, but they're not taking down very disturbing images there. I was going to start with that, but let's start, since we heard that Mission Impossible theme song there. You know, there was a story that came out of foreign policy, a very establishment, statist, globalist, CFR type of outlook that they have of the world. And they're talking about the CIA, and they say, mission unstoppable. Why the CIA is running America's foreign policy. And they said they've been running American foreign policy, and of course, we all happen to notice, actually, especially those of us here at InfoWars who've been talking about this for a long time. They've been running foreign policy since 9/11. You know, we had the coalition of the willing, or as I like to call it, the coalition of the drilling. We had people just hitting the mantra saying, hey, let's forget this. You know, this war is really about the free flow of oil at market prices. And it's like, yeah, okay, let's just call it the coalition of the drilling. We've been fed this kind of stuff before, and it's the CIA that is putting this policy through. It's a perfect headline, why the CIA is running America's foreign policy. One of the things I think is interesting, and something, of course, as we talk about the influence of social media on this last election, a big part of what happened was WikiLeaks, wasn't it? And now we're seeing a big pushback against WikiLeaks. Now, Donald Trump liked what was being put out, and he should have liked what was being put out. There wasn't anything wrong with telling the truth about Hillary's wars, what she knew, why we were going to war in Libya. We saw the emails where they're strategizing inside the State Department saying, you know, we can't put up with Gaddafi having a metal-backed currency. He's got enough money and he's got enough gold and silver that he's putting together a currency that'll be a regional currency that'll be backed by gold and silver. We can't have that. Can't have him going in competition with the fiat currency central banks of the West. So that's really the types of things that are going on in the backroom negotiations. You need to know that. We tell you that. And you can kind of intuit that, but you need to see the document. So it was very important that WikiLeaks put that stuff out. It's very important that we learned that the people who were hacking the election, who were hacking the Democrat primary, were the DNC officials and people like the mainstream media who were feeding Hillary Clinton questions in advance. It was very important for us to know that. Very important for us to know how they were rigging the election against Bernie Sanders. And so it was very important for us to see what WikiLeaks was putting out there. Nobody has said that WikiLeaks has put out anything false, because they haven't. What they put out was bona fide information. And to say that it was hacked is not even true. We've had former British ambassadors say, I came to the United States, I was handed this information by disgruntled people within the DNC. I tried to say some of that to the people that I would interview at the DNC in Philadelphia. They would have none of it. They would just look at me and almost put their hands over their ears, but they would yell back at me, no, it's the Russians, it's the Russians, it's the Russians doing it. And so they're implying that these emails were hacked. They're implying that the elections were somehow hacked. They weren't. What they're saying is, we didn't like the fact that you got this information, that you got the truth about Hillary Clinton. They didn't like that. So it's very disappointing to see Director Mike Pompeo, who they just had a replacement election for him in Kansas on Tuesday. On Thursday, he now hammered WikiLeaks, calling the organization a non-state hostile intelligence service. And I want to remind you, because I retweeted this on my account, I retweeted what WikiLeaks put out. They said, this is a tweet that was sent by CIA Director, now CIA Director, Mike Pompeo, on the 24th of July, 2016. And he, as a congressional representative, said, need further proof that the fix was in from President Obama on down? Busted. 19,252 emails from DNC leaked by WikiLeaks. So he liked it. He liked it when it worked for him. But now he says WikiLeaks is a non-state hostile intelligence service. Maybe it's the state that is hostile to intelligence, to the truth. That's the really sad thing about this. There was another release today from WikiLeaks of the Vault 7 series. First, they came out with Vault 7. I don't know if that had I don't remember if that had a keyword or not. The second one was Marble. Not Marvel as in the comic books, but marble like you know, the round stones that you play games with. That second release showed that, or the first one showed that they were curating techniques to where they could do imposters. They could look like another agency, but they detail that in great deal in the Marble release. And they showed how the CIA had the tools. We've heard, and of course, who have we heard this from? We have heard this, the source for all this information that the FBI is putting out, and Lee Stranahan tried to ask this question at Breitbart, and they wouldn't let him ask the question of Comey. He wanted to say, have you actually seen this stuff? Have you actually done the research? Or are you just taking the word of the people who worked for Hillary Clinton and the DNC on this? And of course, that was the answer. So you ask these rhetorical questions. When you're doing these interviews, it's like you're doing a cross-examination as an attorney. You don't ask questions you don't already know the answers to. And they knew that the Democrats are pushing this information out there, and Comey is pushing this out there, and he hasn't looked at this information. But what are they telling us are the fingerprints that tell us that this was being done by the Russians. So I said, well, obviously this was done on a Cyrillic keyboard, and it came from this area. Well, we all know this is pretty simple stuff that you can route things around to make it look like it came from anywhere you want it to make look like it came from. And even before this evidence came out from WikiLeaks showing precisely how they make it look like it's done on a foreign keyboard, done by foreign language speakers, we were talking to John McAfee, who said nobody in their right mind would leave their own fingerprints. I mean, if you're a Russian and you're hacking somewhere else, you're gonna put stuff in there to make it look like you're somebody else, like you're the Chinese or you're the Americans, and vice versa. The Americans have the tools to make it look like all this stuff is coming from China or from Russia or from North Korea or from Syria or whatever. They've got a long list of different states that they use as the usual suspects to make it look like it's coming from them. And so we saw that in the second release. Now, what we've seen in the third release that came out today, this one is, they're calling it Hive. This latest batch of WikiLeaks documents exposes alleged CIA hacking techniques from Vault 7. The details how the agency can monitor its targets through the use of malware, how they can carry out specific tasks on targeted machines. This is a multi-platform malware suite. It has customizable implants for a lot of different operating systems. Here are some of them. Windows, of course. Solaris, MikroTik, which is used in internet routers, Linux platforms, a network video recorder operating system called AV Tech. They use that for closed-circuit television recordings. They're even able to hide the presence of the malware and have it self-destruct. Of course, you know, Mission Impossible, right? This virus will self-destruct in just a little while, and that's what they do. That's one of the reasons, folks, when we look at this, the first takeaway we should take from this, and we're talking about hacking elections, the first thing we need to make sure we do is keep the computers as far away from the election process and the vote taking and the vote counting as possible. Yeah, we can report this on the internet, but the election machines should not be electronic in any way, shape, or form. And it's not enough to simply say that they're not connected to the internet. And in some cases, they're trying to let people do internet voting. We never can let that happen. Never let that happen. It will be the absolute end of anything that even resembles an election. And it's getting to the point now where they can, they've been able to manipulate elections for a long time, obviously. There is some chance at local elections where they're not interested in it. But if you put it electronically and you have electronic voting machines, they will turn the hacking of our elections by our own government into an enterprise solution. They will extend it down to dog catcher elections. That's where they will go with this stuff if you let them do this. So you have to keep this away. We have to go back to ballots that are paper ballots where we have humans of both parties sitting there watching and monitoring the counting and the custody of this and the transmission of these votes. We absolutely must do this. This explains this very well. They can hide malware. They put it on the HTTPS interface. And of course, that's what you have as kind of the backbone of the internet. They say it utilizes unsuspicious looking cover domains so that you're not going to be aware that they're there. And of course, it has the self-delete function. And that self-delete function we have seen over and over again used on voting machine hacks, where they put something on a little thumb drive, stick the thumb drive in the machine, pull it out, the thing messes around with the vote totals for the day, and then at the end of the day, it deletes itself, so you can't find anything there. We need to wake up to what's going on. And folks, if you think that this is making us safer, you're simply not paying attention. Because one of the key things that WikiLeaks has pointed out is that as they have exposed these different tactics, these viruses, these hacks, techniques that the CIA has done, the exploits, the holes in the security system that they're able to get through, we have the people who have defense contracts who are not the least bit interested in fixing it, like Google. Google is not interested. Others are. Others have corresponded with them. And they said, we're going to release a cross-tabulation and show you the people who are interested in fixing this and the people who absolutely do not want to fix it, because the CIA does not want it fixed. The CIA knew that they had lost their hacking toolkit, and they didn't tell anybody about it. So now you've got all these criminals throughout the world who have access to your banking account if you do it online. They have access to identity theft of yours. They can steal your identity. They can steal your banking accounts. Why? Because the CIA decided that they want to be able to break in and look at anything that you do, and they couldn't care less if you have a criminal who is doing the same thing. So they're going to leave you vulnerable. That's why this whole thing about thinking that you're going to trade your privacy, you're going to trade your liberty for security and safety, that is a fool's bargain, folks. Stay with us. We're going to be right back. We're talking about a little bit of Facebook, and we're going to have Kaya Jones at the bottom of the hour. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight on this Good Friday. And as part of the Easter weekend, we have put together an Easter mega special at InfoWarsStore.com. You know, this time of year, you go out and you find the special Easter candy, all the rich chocolates, the sugar-coated marshmallow peeps, all that stuff. Do yourself a favor. Get a little bit less of that. Support your health. Support our operation. Take advantage of these specials. We've got specials, discounts from 25% to 40% off. We've got 40% off the Gravity Feed Pro Pure special. We've also got 25% off of these Super Male Vitality, Vitamin Mineral Fusion, that's a drink mix, Secret 12, vitamin B12, that's a liquid formulation. It's very easy to take. Just put it under your tongue, no injections, same effect that you would have with a B12 injection. Super Female Vitality, also Super Male Vitality. All of those are 25% off. 25% off Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine. So all those different things, 25% off, 30% off Brain Force Plus. And as I've pointed out many times, that's my favorite supplement that we have here. It really helps me to focus. It doesn't get you jittery, keep you up all night like coffee does. It's a very effective formulation. Again, 30% off Brain Force Plus and 25% off all those other things. Super Male, Super Female Vitality, Super 12, Vitamin B12, our Fusion Drink Mix, and Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine. So support our operations, support your health, get a little bit less candy, and you can still afford these supplements at a discounted, heavily discounted price over the Easter weekend. Now, we're going to have Kaya Jones coming up at the bottom of the hour. One of the things she wanted to talk about was Christian persecution in Egypt and throughout the Middle East. That's one thing that really hasn't gotten much attention, has it? Most of our focus has been on what's going on with Syria, what's been going on in North Korea. And a lot of people are very concerned about what may happen, especially in Egypt, this Easter. They've canceled a lot of services and basically going in hiding. Isn't that unfortunate that that's happening? In the short amount of time that we got left in this short segment here, I want to talk about what's going on with Facebook. As you know, we've talked a great deal about the pedophile rings that are getting busted, a lot of UN involvement in these pedophile rings, both in Haiti and in Africa and other places. Those are big stories. But let's take a look at what's going on with Facebook, for example. In the UK, they're in big trouble. This is being reported by The Times out of the UK. They say Facebook is at risk of a criminal prosecution in Britain for refusing to remove potentially illegal terrorist and child pornography content despite being told it was on the site. They failed to take it down. Basically, the moderator said, well, this doesn't breach the site's community standards. What was it that didn't breach the community standards, okay? They flagged these things to the moderators. The moderator said, nah, that doesn't violate our community standards. Well, it was things like an ISIS beheading, several violent pedophile cartoons, a video of an apparent sexual assault on a child, a propaganda poster that glorified recent terrorist attacks in London and Egypt, which we're going to be talking about in the next section. So they didn't take that down. They said that really doesn't violate our standards, okay? Now, the prosecutor in this, the leading Queen's counsel, his name is Julian Knowles. He said and told the news that this one of these videos I just mentioned appears to depict a sexual assault on a child. And he said, I would argue that the actions of the people employed by Facebook to keep up on or to remove reported posts, these are posts that were reported by the community, and these are employees of Facebook who are supposed to take this down. He said that should be regarded as the actions of Facebook as a corporate entity. So in other words, if you hire these people to moderate these sites when objectionable material is put up, when pedophile material is put up, when videos of sexual assaults on a child are put up and people tell you about it and you say that doesn't violate our standards, he says, I think that is something that is owned by the Facebook corporation because they created these people to do that. Now, while they won't take that kind of stuff down, and they're getting in hot water in the UK for that, we see that Anne Revell, who was a Democrat, and she was on the Federal Elections Commission, and remember, she came out, she wanted to target news sites, she wanted to target Drudge and say, you're posting all of this information, you're linking to articles that other people have put up there, you're hacking our election, and we got to do something about that. You are actually, by expressing a political opinion with your editorial content, she says, you are helping one candidate over another. And so the Federal Elections Commission needs to step in and monitor what the news media is doing. They need to put themselves over the First Amendment. That's what Democrat Anne Revell said. Now, she has stepped down from the Federal Elections Commission. That's good. But now she's out there saying we need to do this on Facebook because Facebook is even more important. And we got to go to Facebook, we got to go to Twitter, we got to go to social media accounts, and we have to exercise political censorship. These are the people who won't take down child porn, but they want to take down politics. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Kaya Jones. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight. We're going to be talking to Kaya Jones here in just a moment. She contacted us, and she said she was very concerned that as we see Easter approaching, there really hasn't been much discussion about the attacks that happened last Sunday, on Palm Sunday, in Egypt. And I agree with her. I think that's absolutely true. I covered it on the nightly news, but we've had the issues with Syria and other politics have really swamped this. I think it's very interesting how selective the media is in terms of what they try to focus on. We don't see pictures of people dying in these Egyptian churches. We just see the pictures that they want us to see of the people who are dying in the specific areas that they want to attack. And we have to understand how big this problem is. In Egypt, the Christian population is about 6 to 18%. It's a very wide range because it's difficult to get accurate figures. Why is it difficult to get accurate figures? Because they have to do it in hiding. And let me give you an example of this. There's an article on Breitbart today talking about how one of these Coptic Orthodox dioceses in Minya has had to cancel Easter celebrations because of the threats, the violence, but also over the morning of all the attacks that happened there. And I think it's interesting when we look at this, they say, of course, this has been going on for quite some time. They've had 28 people now have been arrested for ties to the planning and the financing of these attacks. It's very widespread persecution that's going on here. They say that this particular bombing that happened in Alexandria, the guy, as he was passing through the metal detector, you can see that just as I'm talking about that right there on the monitor. They have a metal detector set up to try to protect them from the terrorists who want to kill people in the churches. And so what does he do? And we've said this about the TSA metal detectors, how ineffective that is. You mass people together. There wasn't a big crowd of people at that metal detector at that moment, not as big as it would have been in an airport, but still killed a lot of people. Blew himself up as he was going through the metal detector. But here, we talk about how many people there are that are Christians in Egypt. Here's one of the reasons why it's not easy to get a number on that. They point out that in a lot of the villages where they are afraid to actually have a building, a church where people can go, they have to keep a very low profile. And what they do is they go to a wall and they draw a cross on it, they hold their ceremonies, and then they run away. That's persecution. And that's what we need to remember this Easter as we're safely in our churches. And think about the fact, folks, that this can come to America if we don't wake up to what is happening with this massive migration. We create wars in Syria. We create regime changes in Syria, which creates chaos, war, and terrorism in those areas. And then we say we've got a refugee crisis that we created with our regime change policies, and we have to bring those people in. We have to import that chaos. We have to import that terrorism. That's the grand strategy. We need to wake up to that and cut it off at the source. Regime change. We've seen it happen in Libya, and it's about to happen again in Syria. Now I want to go to Kaya Jones. She began her music career at a very young age as a classically trained violinist. She is one of the founding members of one of the most popular girl groups in history, the Pussycat Dolls. That was 2003 to 2005. She has had a very successful recording career since then. You can find her at kayajones.com. Welcome, Kaya.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us your concerns about what's going on. You contacted us and said, this is something we really need to talk about, and we agree. We need to talk about what's going on in Egypt, especially this weekend. As you heard me say, they have had to cancel Easter services in one jurisdiction, and the other people are having to basically hide to even get together to worship.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is an attack against the cross. Everyone needs to understand that. This is not an attack on just Christians. It's our doctrine. It's our belief in a whole being attacked. And so it's scary to watch the news continuously say things about our president, say things about what's going on in the world. And, 2 minutes is shown of what's happening to Christians in Egypt. And it was just, passed over. Luckily, Andre Soriano, who designed the Make America Great Again dress for Joy, he sent all of us this incredible video that was the truth of what happened inside of the church that killed 47. They're not sure if it's 45 or 47 from all the different reports.
Wow.
And it was someone then taking their phone because, the feed had been cut. And now taking their phone saying, you need to see this.
Wow.
And how could you not respond? You know, in that moment, to me, it was very clear that something's wrong when, you know, we're talking about a murderous mother in America who gets off, you know, out of her sentence and now has a reality show is the key topic. You know, and we're barely talking about Christians and what's going on, and that this is against our doctrine. This is not just Christians. This is the cross.
I think that's a very important point. You start out by saying this is an attack on the cross because Muslims see Jesus as a prophet. And so they say, we honor Jesus and so forth and so on. What they hate is the cross. They hate what we celebrate here on Good Friday and on Easter Sunday, the fact that Jesus died and was raised again on the third day. That is the offense to them. And so that is why they are focusing on this particular time, especially. Now, this is not something that they only did. They did this again at Christmas. We had in the same general area in Egypt, they had about 30 people that were killed in an attack in the Sinai Peninsula. They've had hundreds of Christians have to flee for safety out of that area. And, of course, there were 2 attacks that happened on Palm Sunday, but that's the core thing. They focus on these holidays that celebrate aspects of Jesus's life that they don't like, the doctrine that they don't like. So that's when they go out and kill people over doctrine. And that's what we have to understand, what is at the basis of this. And the other part of this is the fact that, as General Flynn has pointed out, this is not just a religious persecution. This is also a political and legal system. All of it is tied together. Everybody, all these liberals who hate any possible tie of church and state in our country, they're perfectly fine with mosque and state. And that's the amazing thing that really makes my head spin. The fact that they would embrace people like the LGBT community and then embrace this religion that throws them off the roofs. They would hate anything that smacks of religious expression and Christianity, but then they would embrace the people that Hillary Clinton had speak for her. I always called him Sharia Khan. I don't even remember his real name anymore, but the guy that she had introduce her is a guy who has been an advocate of Sharia law. It is a legal and political system. It is not just a doctrine. And they will kill you if they don't agree with your doctrine, but it is also a legal system.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the LGBT community is very near and dear to my heart. I've done so much work with them, and I don't think I would have much of a career if it hadn't been for the support I've received from them. At the same time, you know, all religion has offended or hurt or said things to the gay community. And so that's kind of their stance, is it's all in one. And I've had these discussions with many of my gay friends that have said, you know, but it's all in one. And I'm like, well, look, there are concentration camps going on right now, rounding up gay men. And what will be next? Gay women, gay sympathizers, Christians. I mean, Hitler didn't just start with, you know, the Jews in Germany. That was where he began, but that's not where he ended. You know, so where does it end? Where does it really end? And that's going on right now, you know, and people don't even know about it.
When you look at what's going on in Christianity, take the Westboro Baptist, for example, that is a microscopic fringe group that doesn't represent mainstream Christianity. Christians reject that. That is not Christian doctrine. They have absolutely no power. And yet, they don't have a problem with Saudi Arabia, where the government has religious police, where they are enacting Sharia punishment against LGBT people. They're our allies. And at the same time, we're told that we need to embrace Islam. I just don't get the doublethink that's going on there.
Oh, there's a lot of doublethink. I think the key thing is we have to keep talking about what's going on. In Chechnya, there are concentration camps going on right now. And that's what's happening to the gay community there. People need to understand this. People need to also know what's going on to Christians around the globe, or to anyone that is not okay with the faith that is coming against us. And I have a lot of Muslim friends. At this point, I ask, you need to speak up and speak out. If you're not okay with what's going on, if this is really the religion of peace, then you need to speak. We need to start talking, because what it's looking like is a bunch of people not speaking on what's going on, and also genociding their own people. So it is crucial that we keep speaking on about it. It is crucial that we keep discussing and that we don't just shut the door on this narrative. This has been going on for a long time. Coptic Christians are so important to our doctrine. They were created in 42 AD. So this is 42 years after Christ. This is something that is important for us to understand. This is the beginning, and they're being demolished.
Yes,
And-
yes. And we can see that as we look at the other ancient areas. You go through the Bible and you look at all the different churches that Paul wrote to, you know, they had very strong Christian populations. They're all Muslim now, and every trace of that culture, that civilization, those people has been eradicated. And that is what is really going on in Egypt. Islam is the essence of intolerance. And that's why, again, I get back to this double think. How can these people preach tolerance and yet embrace the most intolerant of religions, where everywhere that it has gone, they have eradicated everything. They shot up the face of the Sphinx because they don't like statues. I mean, it's not just Christian culture, it's every other culture. If they don't like the symbols, they destroy them, and then they build on top of them. One of the things I think that's interesting, Kaya, is a story from Breitbart that came out earlier in the week. And it was about a cartoon artist that worked at Marvel Comics, and he started interjecting Islamic references, but also political references. I think that's the key thing. This Indonesian comic artist, it was a new comic series called X-Men Gold, and he featured a reference to the Quran that urges Muslims not to take Christians and Jews as allies. Whoever is an ally to them, the verse says, who among you, then indeed he is one of them. So in other words, you're with us or you're against us. And then as part of this, he also put up a protest against a political opponent who referred to the verse. Many Muslims saw this as an act of blasphemy because he pushed back against that. So they started these demonstrations on the 2nd of December last year. And so the number 212 has now become a symbol of political opposition to a guy in Indonesia who is actually tolerant of other religions. So now they want to get him out of office. They want him prosecuted for blasphemy in Indonesia. And he put these symbols inside a Marvel comic. Now, Marvel said, we don't have anything to do with it. They don't reflect the views of the writer, the editors, or anyone here. But then he got onto social media and started to confirm it. One of his other writers said, well, that's it, pal,
Isn't that
you're
amazing
done.
how social media works, right?
Yeah, so we know that that's what he was doing. They caught him on it. They distanced themselves from it. But that's the subtlety with which they use this. It's in comic books, it's in your entertainment, and it's in politics. And when you push back against it, even if it's somebody that introduces Hillary Clinton, who is a proponent of Sharia law, we're told it's intolerant if we point that out.
Yeah, no, it's not intolerant. We need to know as Christians and as Jews, or as anyone who's a non-denomination that believes in an above, you can connect with God anywhere, any place. They can attack our churches, and we can connect with God anytime and any place. So they can have this, you know, this ideology to come against everything, if you will, anything that's of art or religion or freedom. And that to me is a very strong ideology. And we need to be careful with sympathizing with this, because this is not something that you can sympathize with. You cannot sympathize with anyone that is thinking it's okay to go into a holy space. You know, I might not believe in other religions because I am Christian, but I will tell you this: you do not denounce, you do not go into a church, a synagogue, a temple, or a mosque and cause problems. That is just, at what point have we crossed the line? And there is a line, and it has been crossed. And when are we going to do something about it and say something about it and start to show your crosses, start to wear them? If everyone's happy and
there was
excited
just an
about wearing
incident.
the hijab, we should be happy, as I am, to sport my cross, as we all should. If they're okay with sporting the hijab, we should do the same.
Absolutely. This week, Kaya, you probably are familiar with this. In Australia, there was a young man who, and again, I think he was Greek Orthodox. He had a large cross, which is what they wear. And he was attacked in Australia and at a public train station, subway station, something like that, by a gang of Muslim individuals who beat him, who removed his cross. His girlfriend tried to intervene. Two Muslim girls attacked her. And the interesting thing, most interesting thing about this, I think, is the fact that there were, I believe, 5 uniformed officers there on the platform who stood by and did nothing. And when people complained about that, they said, that's not my job, man. I'm here to stop people who are jumping over the turnstiles because they didn't pay $1 to ride the subway or something. I'm not going to help anybody.
Job either. It's not your job or my job either to speak out on certain issues. I'm a singer. I, also own a record company. I'm a performer. I came out in support of Trump, but at this point, it doesn't matter whether you're a singer, you sweep the street, or you're a police officer. We need to know what's right and wrong. And right now, what's going on in the world is wrong. We cannot have this continue. It starts in one space and it moves. Had we stayed in the Middle East and not just pulled out, we would not have been in this situation where ISIS is now spread everywhere. I mean, I wish Trump had come along sooner because I was so happy when I saw what he did. I was so happy.
Yeah, I just hope that he doesn't, one of the things that's going on in Syria, of course, is Assad is one of the most secular governments that we've had there. There's been less persecution of Christians in that country before ISIS came in. There was less persecution there than anywhere else. And what I'm concerned about is that this is going to degenerate into a situation like we've had even in other places where the U.S. government has gone in, other countries where there used to be a Christian population. After our involvement, that went down to essentially zero. I hope that doesn't happen in Syria as well. I think the takeaway that we have to come away with this is that we don't turn into the picture of what we saw with these uniformed people on the platform. We have to do something. And so what can we do? We're not always there when somebody is being attacked. But we can show exactly what you're doing, what you're talking about. And the video that you're talking about, has that been passed around on social media, or was that shut down? Did they allow that to be passed around?
I passed it. It's actually on my page. I'll repost it if you'd like, and I'll attach you guys as well. I think the world needs to see it. I know you can't see it and unsee it,
Give us your social media. Give us your page where it is.
Jones, at Kaya Jones. At Twitter, at Kaya Jones. On my Instagram, Kaya's Music on Facebook, and Kaya's KayaTube on YouTube. Or you can go to kayajones.com, and they have it all there.
That's very important. That's something that people can do to stand with those who are being persecuted, who have to worship and hide, run and hide, who have to shut down their celebrations. That's something that you can do. Very important to do that. Thank you so much for talking to us, Kaya Jones.
Thank you for having me. Happy Good Friday.
Thank you. You too. KayaJones.com, and you can find her at Kaya Jones on Twitter to get that video. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight. I just got handed this article in Wired Magazine. Major leak suggests that the NSA was deep in the Middle East banking system. And, of course, we've seen Brennan, CIA, and others, as really a lot of people have reported how close he is, that he's really a Muslim insider. There's been a lot of reports about that. I can't document that, but, boy, this is very, very, very interesting that the NSA, why is the NSA involved in any bank, let alone a Middle Eastern bank? That's amazing headline. I want to go back to the news, and I want to talk about where we go now. How do we win something so that we don't lose big time in 2018, so that this reform movement isn't shut out? Before we go back to that, though, I just want to point out to you that we have the Easter mega special that we put in place at InfoWarsStore.com. Anywhere from 25 to 30% and more off of selected products. Let me give you some of the ones that are 25% off. Super Male, Super Female Vitality, both of those are 25% off. Our vitamin B12 formulation, Secret 12, 25% off. 25% off Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine from Deep Earth Sources. Those are all 25% off. 30% off Brain Force Plus, and 33% off Caveman. We put that's an extended special that we've kept along with those other items that we put on sale for Easter. Remember, Caveman we call it Caveman because it's paleo nutrition. It's one of the key things in it is bone broth, but it's also got 7 other primal superfoods that help support healthy muscles, fight free radicals. We have things like chaga mushrooms, turmeric root, bee pollen, along with that bone broth, a very effective paleo nutrition formulation that combines cutting-edge nutraceutical science with the ancient arts of nutrition. And that's what bone broth is about. And you can get that with it's got a great chocolate flavor too as well. You can find that at InfoWarsStore.com. 33% off. It sold off very quickly when we first introduced it. It's now back in stock, and it's at 33% off as well. All right, let's talk about what we do to move forward, because we've got this war going on between and within the House, between the House Freedom Caucus, the people who said, no, we campaigned and won on the principle of repeal. We're going to have repeal. And then you got the centrist group. They call them the Tuesday group. And, of course, the mainstream press is calling them centrists. No, they're statists, actually, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to establish this. They don't want to remove it. They just want to manipulate it around the edges a little bit. And that is a prescription for disaster. Let's talk about how they manipulate us in the media, because we have a war of ideas. That's what's really going on, folks. And the battlefield is in Washington, D.C. The way they get the high ground in this battlefield is by choosing the terms that they talk about. And a good example of this is a story from NPR. And they have all these maps and graphics and metrics that talk about health insurance coverage. And they talk about, look at how many more people got coverage under ACA. And when you look through all these different charts, they don't talk about cost. You understand? They're talking about coverage, not cost. The whole thing was sold to us as affordable health insurance. They're not talking about that anymore, are they? This is the misdirection. So when they really want something that is universal and not affordable, and you can't have both, that's the reality. Sorry, utopia is not an option. So they want universal. They want the government to run it. They call that single payer. They choose the terms, just like they talk about, instead of illegal aliens, they call them undocumented aliens. No, actually, they're foreign citizens who are illegally trespassing, criminally trespassing in our country, but they call them undocumented immigrants. So now what they do is they want to focus us on coverage. If that's going to be our metric, we're going to lose this fight. We have to get back to a marketplace. That means we need repeal. Join us for our live broadcast, 3 to 5. Mike Cernovich is here in the studio. He's going to be joining them there. And tonight at 7 Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for the InfoWars Nightly News.
In ancient times, man roamed the earth in a constant state of hunting or being hunted. Introducing Caveman, where cutting-edge science meets ancient super nutrients. Secure your bottle right now at InfoWarsStore.com.